Upon hearing Han Feng directly mention these three names, Zhu Beixu immediately let down his guard and nodded, saying, "Then, sir, please wait at the village entrance first. I will go and inform the three elders." Only then did Han Feng nod and wait with his wife and children beside the village. "Brother Han, finally you're here." Soon, a middle-aged man came out from the village with a smile. "Brother Wang." Seeing that it was Wang Tao, Han Feng's face immediately broke into a smile. Wang Tao was someone from the former Longshan camp, and Han Feng was not unfamiliar with him. "Leader Lu is out on business recently, so I will be the one to welcome you. These are Brother Han's wife and children, what handsome lads. Come with me to the main building." Wang Tao obviously knew beforehand that Han Feng was coming. Complimenting Han Feng's two sons, he immediately extended an invitation and led the four of them to the main building. Able to enter the main building, could this Han Feng be from the master's former camp? Definitely, that Han Feng has cold resistance level cultivation. The leader's former camp had real strength. Whoever came, they were basically at the cold resistance level cultivation, tusk. Seeing Wang Tao directly invite Han Feng and his family into the main building, Zhu Beixu and the others immediately showed a hint of surprise on their faces. Beside them, Wan Qingyu thought of something and whispered to Zhu Beixu, "Brother, have you heard? Lately, the Great Xia town is being spread widely through the 8 towns. Their camp structure is actually the same as ours in East Ridge, also divided into 8 departments, with names identical to ours: logistics, hunting, logging, oversight, craftsmen, civil affairs, prison, and military." Wan Qingyu's voice grew softer and softer until it was nearly inaudible. But upon hearing these words, Zhu Beixu immediately turned his head to make eye contact with him, and in their pupils there was a palpable sense of excitement. They had been in the East Ridge for almost a year. Previously, they were very puzzled as to why East Ridge was different from other villages in Baining Mountain, adopting the 8-department system. Until the end of last month, quite a bit of news about Great Xia Town gradually reached Baining Mountain. Upon hearing about the 8 divisions of Great Xia, they immediately had some suspicions in their minds. The 8 divisions of Great Xia and the 8 departments of East Ridge had identical names, the only distinction being the suffix, one used divisions, the other departments. In this world, could there really be such coincidences? If it was merely speculation before, then when the news spread afterwards, Lu Yang immediately abolished the 8 departments of East Ridge, changing to the same system as the rest of the stations in Baining Mountain. They could basically be certain. Their master, Lu Yang, or rather this group of people from East Ridge, must be connected with that Great Xia Town, and to be bolder, it was very likely that their master came from that Great Xia Town. Currently holding this suspicion was not only the two of them. Lu Yun and the other brothers also had a clear sense of this. Among the brothers, there was a tacit understanding not to discuss this matter. But with the growing reputation of Great Xia Town, and more information about Great Xia coming to Baining Mountain, their excitement grew by the day. When Master returns after finishing his business, everything will be clear, and he will definitely take the initiative to tell us. At the Hongmen banquet, the Great Xia Lord Xia Hong casually struck and frightened off Chui Mountain Town's Lord Duan Hong and Town Chief Mu Long. None of the chiefs from the other 7 towns dared to say a word on behalf of Chui Mountain Town. This piece of news flashed through Zhu Beixu's mind, and he clenched his fists, his eyes filled with longing for Great Xia Town. They, "Brother Han, go directly down the secret passage. Lu Shuzheng has been staying at your old home recently. You should be able to see him when you come out of the passage." Bringing Han Feng's family of 4 into the main building, Wang Tao wasted no time, directly opening the passage entry behind the main hall's main seat, signaling for the 4 to go down directly. Unlike his wife, Tan Ru, this was Han Feng's second visit, and he showed no surprise. After cupping his hands to Wang Tao, he immediately led his wife and children down the secret passage toward the Hankyang station beneath the mountain wall. The Cold Jade secret tunnel was completed in August of the 3rd year of Da Xia, and now it has been a full 5 years. Naturally, the passage had changed in appearance. Upon entering the tunnel, the 4 saw a track made of iron, with many simple flatbed cars stacked beside it. Seeing the flatbed cars, Han Feng immediately understood, and after leading his family onto one, gave a firm push. The flatbed car glided swiftly down along the track. "Dad, this car is so much fun. It's so fast, you don't even need to walk. Such strong wind, haha." They, children are the most playful. As the flatbed car sped down the track, with their father's protection, they were not afraid, only exclaiming how fun it was. Experiencing this mode of travel for the first time, Tanru also found it convenient and comfortable, and couldn't help but laugh along with her sons. Unlike his wife and children, Han Feng began observing from the moment they entered the tunnel. He had left through this secret passage 6 years ago, and back then he had used brute force to collapse a long section. Now the tunnel had long since transformed, not merely cleared out. The entire passage had widened several times, with a total height of 5 meters and a width of over 3 meters. All along the tunnel, it had been reinforced with timber and iron, while certain key structures were even supported by a large amount of pure iron. As the flatbed car raced down at high speed, not a single tremor was felt, evident of the tunnel's stability. Attempting to collapse this passage on a large scale would already be very difficult. Unless a large number of cold resistance level cultivators who are stronger than I am act simultaneously, it simply can't be done. The infiltration of Great Xia into Beishuo town has been 4 years, and they have so painstakingly fortified this passage, it seems. Chapter 1110, Chapter 383. Han Feng returns home, new travel permit rules, Xia City street vendors, and the black-robed child blocking the road, Part 3. With his gaze withdrawing from the secret tunnel barrier, Han Feng's face was full of shock. At the end of last year, when the Nine-Town Coalition suffered a major defeat at Hongyuan, he returned directly to Jinshan Town. In just a few days, he came to Beishuo to find Liu Yang. Previously, when Han Feng saw Liu Yang with 31 people at Hongyuan, he vaguely felt that the Great Xia had long since changed, and its strength certainly surpassed his imagination. Yet at the end of the year, when he arrived at East Ridge Village, he was instantly subdued. The entire East Ridge Village, surprisingly, had over 100 cold resistance level cultivators and hundreds at the earth-digging realm limit. Just this strength alone was enough to crush Guyan Village where he resided. The key point was that Han Feng knew very well. Liu Yang was just a subordinate under Xia Hong. How strong must the Great Xia be? The subsequent journey to Great Xia stirred a mighty wave in Han Feng's heart. Later in Xia City, he met Han Yue and Han Shuang, the two younger sisters. Seeing their cold resistance level cultivation and understanding the kind of life they were leading now, returning from Xia City to Guyan Village, Han Feng never stopped thinking. For the past half-year, he had been planning to send his wife and children back to Xia City to live. And of course, besides this, there was his own personal future. Han Feng was not someone content with mediocrity. 6 years ago, he led people from the secret tunnel out of Longyu and into the Nine Towns territory. Unfamiliar with the environment, he mistakenly wandered into Jinshan Town's territory, suffering deaths and injuries along the way, until only over 300 people remained. They were taken in by Guyan village leader Tan Yuan. In just 6 years, Han Feng not only broke through to the peak of cold resistance, reaching a strength of 17 horde, but also married Tan Yuan's niece Tan Ru, relying on the support of those Hankyang elders back then to become the deputy leader of Guyan village. Logically speaking, his status in Guyan village is not low. Continuing to live there with his wife and children would be quite good. But having seen the Celestial Palace, how could he be satisfied with an ordinary life? Not to mention comparing Guyan village with Xia City. He had entered Jinshan City, and by his observations, even Jinshan City couldn't compare to Xia City. Just one point. Last year in Xia City, he saw children who were the same age as his 2 sons, and most were more robust than his own too. Just on this point, he had ample reason to take his wife and children to Xia City. Of course, there was also the issue of his own cultivation. Han Feng is only 34 years old this year. He is not willing to stop at the strength of 17 horde for life. The problem is that enhancing strength beyond the peak of cold resistance is too difficult. Jinshan Town's Tiger Power Pill costs 100,000 taels of silver per pill. This price Han Feng simply couldn't afford. As the deputy leader of Guyan Village, his authority and treatment are naturally not low. He regularly has some silver income, and his strength is not weak. Occasionally, he would respond to Jinshan City summons or help other villages to earn extra, but the speed was too slow. He saves at most 6,000 taels of silver a year. At this rate, it would take 15 years to save enough to buy 1 Tiger Power Pill. By then, nearing old age, he would only be able to buy 2 or 3 Tiger Power Pills. How could Han Feng endure this? In his heart, there was the Xianyang dream. Last year when Daju Temple caused chaos, Jinshan Town summoned cold resistance level cultivators from various villages to help. As deputy leader, he actually didn't need to come, but the reason he did was to earn more silver. This is also fate. An adventurous journey to Hongyuan unexpectedly led him to meet Lu Yang and others, learning about Great Zia's current situation. Last year Han Shuang took me to Great Zia's camp supply department. There, the dragon carp pills and green cod pills only needed 30,000 contribution value points internally per pill. Ways to earn contribution value aside, the camp supply department exchanged silver at 80 points per pound, so converting the 30,000 points is just 3,750 taels of silver. The silver I currently have is enough to buy 5 pills at once. Joining Great Zia is a must. Han Feng silently pondered, his eyes full of determination. Joining Great Zia could not only provide a better life for his family, but also allow him to continue enhancing his strength. It might even make his Xianyang dream come true in the future. Moreover, the recent rumors, even if half are true, are enough to prove that what I saw last year in Zia City did not fully represent Great Zia. The true strength of Great Zia might be far more terrifying than I imagined. Remembering those messages concerning Great Zia that reached Jinshan Town last month, Han Feng's eyes gradually heated up, his demeanor beginning to excite. He inexplicably thought of that person he briefly met 6 years ago when he led people out from Cold Jade's secret tunnel, recalling he once tried to ambush him, and then that person personally invited him to join Great Zia. He shook his head repeatedly, a bitter smile on his face. The entire Cold Jade secret tunnel spanned 45 kilometers. If walking, Han Feng with his wife and children would take at least 2 hours, but using the flatbed cart to descend swiftly, they took less than a quarter of an hour. Bang! Brother Han, you finally arrived. Lu Yang was actually waiting at the end of the passage. Han Feng instantly guessed Wang Tao had sent the message down in advance. Hurriedly, he led his wife and 2 children to jump from the flatbed cart and saluted toward Lu Yang. Han Feng pays respect to Lord Lu. He was already familiar with Great Zia and knew Lu Yang's official position. Coming this time to join Great Zia, he couldn't casually address him as before. Upon hearing Han Feng's address, Lu Yang immediately understood and, smiling, led the family of 4 out of the secret tunnel. As it was 6 years ago, the tunnel exit was inside the original Hankyang camp's main building. Chapter 11:11, Chapter 383. Han Feng returns home, new route permit regulations, Zia City vendors, the black-robed child blocking the road, Part 4. Of course, it has now become the ministry building of the Great Zia Hankyang outpost. Though it was his second visit, upon returning to the place where he grew up, even if things have changed, Han Feng still felt a deep warmth in his heart. Kill. Charge. So soft and weak, no strength, use more force. Kill. Charge. They. Before walking out of the ministry building, several synchronized roars suddenly came from the inner valley of Hankyang Gorge. It sounded somewhat like the training of soldiers, and Han Feng's eyes suddenly revealed a touch of curiosity. By the way, I have been busy leading the troops recently and haven't had the time to manage East Ridge. Lord Wang is in charge there these days. I hope Brother Han understands. Lord Lu is too polite to Han. Seeing Lu Yang specifically bow to him as he explained, Han Feng hurriedly returned the gesture, shaking his head repeatedly, and then followed him out of the building. Kill. Upon exiting the building, a grand army of 1,000, clad in light gold 100-forged armor, suddenly appeared in Han Feng's view, causing his expression to shake sharply. The army was divided into 10 phalanxes, each consisting of 100 men. The soldiers in the front phalanx wielded assorted weapons, all with cold resistance level cultivation. The remaining 9 phalanxes, 3 wielded some unusually shaped giant sabers, while the other 6 were equipped with longswords. Not only the 100 men in the front phalanx, but more than 100 cold resistance level auras were also present among the remaining 9 phalanxes. The remaining nearly 800 members were all at the earth-digging realm limit cultivation. Such a small station as Hankyang, and yet the Great Zia had stationed a defensive army-level force here. It seems the recent rumors of Lord Zia Hong commanding tens of thousands of troops in the 8 towns are not unfounded. Suppressing the surprise on his face, Han Feng looked at Lu Yang with envy and said, Lord Lu's ability to command such a formidable force truly makes Han envious. Ha 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 ha, my Dingyang army has just been formed for 3 months. still a huge gap compared to other great Xia forces. Lu Yang was tickled by Han Feng's words and couldn't help but burst into laughter. Recently, his proudest achievement has been the Dongyang army. His desire to build an army was not a day or two old. When he received the message from Xia City at the end of April, learning that the Lord had appointed him to build the army, he was extremely excited, rushing back to Xia City overnight. By mid-May, he had structured the Dongyang army. For convenience in training, he directly brought the Dongyang army to the Hankyang outpost, leaving the affairs of East Ridge largely to Wang Tao, while focusing on training at Hankyang. Brother Han, there's no need for envy. With your qualifications, you are not inferior to me. Once you become part of Great Xia, you will surely be valued by the Lord, and leading troops will be inevitable. Thank you for your kind words, Lord Lu. Hearing Lu Yang's words, a sense of hope rose in Han Feng's eyes. Nodding heavily, he continued to follow Lu Yang to the entryway of the Hankyang outpost straight road. The journey from Hankyang to Xia City is southward, passing through Beehive and Mirror Valley, then through Arrow Bamboo Forest. The total distance is about 90 kilometers. There were only 3 hours left until dawn. If they walked normally, the 4 of them would not make it before dawn, but using the straight road would be different. 90 kilometers, traveling the straight road, with your pace, you should make it in just over an hour. Here are the travel permits for passing the barriers and tokens for entering the city. When Wang Tao sent down the message earlier, I had already dispatched someone to Xia City to inform them in advance. Miss Han Yue and Han Shuang already know you are coming. Lu Yang produced 2 pre-prepared tokens. One was a pure iron 100 forged level permit issued by the Hankyang outpost, and the other was a 1,000 forged level token with Han Feng's name engraved on it, evidently prepared in advance. Travel permit. Han Feng understood the city entry token, as the 8 towns generally have them, but he was unclear about the travel permit and looked up at Lu Yang curiously. Not minding the trouble, Lu Yang explained with a smile, our great Xia town now has close to 40 outposts. With frequent personnel traffic between them, this travel permit is to guard against those with ulterior motives. Details such as how many of you are traveling together, where you are coming from, your purpose, and your destination are all thoroughly recorded on the permit. Only officials of garrison or above can issue it. With this, you can move freely within the Great Xia territory. Upon hearing, Han Feng immediately realized that, with this travel permit system, the control Great Xia has over the movement of people within its territories would be frighteningly strong. Each outpost certainly keeps a backup when issuing travel permits. If a suspicious person appears at any outpost, one only needs to check against the issuing outpost to verify and trace it back. If something goes wrong, they can easily identify which outpost and which individual issued it. Everything becomes clear at a glance. Through this travel permit system, one gets a glimpse of Great Xia's control over its territory, far surpassing the other 8 towns on the southern slope of Mo Mountain. With this in mind, Han Feng naturally became even more eager for the upcoming journey. Lord Lu, my wife and children cannot endure the cold, so I shall set off first. Very well, safe travels, Brother Han. Han Feng bade farewell to Lu Yang and set off towards Xia City with his wife and children. The 4 of them traveled south along the straight road, passing through Beehive and Mirror Valley, one after the other. It was only after their travel permits were checked at both places that they embarked on the final leg to Xia City. Setting foot on the southern end of the Mirror Valley straight road, the traffic of people moving along the way noticeably increased. It was Han Feng's second visit, so he naturally understood the reason. The straight road south of Mirror Valley links Xia City with the entire Longyu land, so the traffic there was naturally higher than in other places. Chapter 11-12, Chapter 383. Han Feng returns home, new path regulations, Xia City street vendors, the black-robed child blocking the road /5. Husband, just how many people are there in Great Xia town? Tanru held back for a long time, but finally couldn't resist asking. Since entering East Ridge Village, she had barely spoken a word. The reason was simple, she also had earth-digging realm cultivation. Though many things couldn't be seen explicitly, she had somewhat sensed them in her heart. The places they had visited, and the people they had met along the way, from their clothing to their cultivation aura, were noticeably much stronger than those in the places she had been before. Especially in this straight path since they left Mirror Valley, among so many passers-by, she couldn't find a single one with strength weaker than hers. Among them were many who nodded at her husband, and she didn't need to guess to know that these were definitely cold resistance level cultivators. She initially wanted to ask how strong Great Zia was, but thought the question might be difficult to answer, so she instead asked about the population of Great Zia. Walking ahead, Han Feng paused for a moment before replying. When I came last year at the end of the year, the population of Zia City had already exceeded 1.03 million. Now, I'm not sure. Population exceeding 1.03 million. Gulp. Tanru's expression suddenly froze, and she asked in disbelief. Jinshan City has only over 800,000 people. Does Zia City have even more than Jinshan City? This wasn't a matter of her being unsophisticated. The fact that Tanru could immediately speak of the approximate population of Jinshan City proved that her experiences were not low, but actually exceeded that of the majority of ordinary people. Even so, a city of over a million was unheard of in her more than 30 years of life. Upon suddenly hearing about the massive scale of Zia City, she was inevitably shocked to the core. Look, there's the exit. Come with me and you'll see. Han Feng initially intended to explain more to his wife, but after taking a few steps forward, he suddenly saw a light appear in front of the passage, revealing a look of joy on his face. He immediately gestured for his wife to quicken her pace, and holding his two sons, he quickly ran towards the exit. Ming'er, Ruyer, wake up. We've arrived. Quickly lift your heads and look. Upon exiting the passage, Han Feng first awakened Han Ming and Han Rui in his arms. The two children were only 4 or 5 years old and couldn't endure the long journey, so they had already fallen asleep. Awakened by their father, they rubbed their eyes, and upon lifting their heads, their eyes widened in astonishment. Not only them, but Tanru, who had just walked out of the straight path, also stood frozen with a stunned expression. About 500 meters in front of the passage, there appeared a gigantic city wall running from north to south, stretching endlessly as far as the eye could see. The city wall, its material indistinct yet entirely black and shiny, was over 30 meters tall. Despite its height, the wall extended so long to the south and north that from a distance it looked like a gigantic black beast crouched on the ground. Even at night, one could clearly feel its magnificence and grandeur. This city wall is even bigger than Jinshan City. What a grand city. Dad, is this where we will live from now on? Country folks newly arrived, I apologize for the amusement we've caused. Rower, follow me, let's enter the city. At the moment, there were many people entering and exiting the passage, and seeing that his wife's and two sons' words drew the attention of those around them, Han Feng quickly smiled and cupped his hands to the crowd, then led the three towards the city gate along with the flow of people. So warm, Dad. We're so far from the fire, yet it's not cold. As they approached the city gate, the temperature instantly rose, and Han Ming and Han Rui, who had been curled up in Han Feng's arms from the cold, immediately noticed it. Tanru also realized it, and as she looked up at the snowflakes in the sky that all seemed to avoid this giant city, her face instantly filled with astonishment and curiosity. The large city gate was divided into two sections, one for exit and one for entry. Those leaving the city were barely checked, while those entering had to queue up slowly. Hundreds of soldiers in forged golden armor patrolled around the city gate, some on the watchtower above the gate and along the city walls, while others were responsible for inspecting the entry pass and token of those entering the city. With great familiarity, Han Feng led his wife and children into the line. It was soon their turn. Strangers. The soldier in charge of inspections at the city gate recognized from the attire of the four that they weren't people from Great Zia, but this didn't surprise them. Instead, they directly asked, "Do you have an entry pass?" "Yes, sir, please have a look." And Feng hurriedly and politely handed over the entry pass and token. The soldier on duty, noticing Han Feng's demeanor, showed a satisfied smile. He was also at the cold resistance level, and not only did he discern that Han Feng wasn't a Zia person, but he also noticed that Han Feng's cultivation and strength should be above his own. Having such strength, but not being arrogant, naturally endeared Han Feng to him. "This is a pass personally signed by Lord Lu, Han Feng, a family of 4. Of course, even though he had taken a liking to Han Feng, the soldier carefully verified the information on the pass. Once he saw the token, he smiled, handed back the pass after storing it properly, returned the token to Han Feng and said with a smile, "No problem, you can enter the city now." "Thank you, sir." Finally able to enter the city. Holding his two sons, Han Feng led his wife quickly through the city gate. Upon entering the city, a 20-meter-wide bluestone avenue immediately caught Tan Ru's eye. Both sides of the bluestone road were lined with various fruit trees and vegetation she had never seen before. Behind the vegetation was a vast open space with only a handful of scattered buildings, somewhat less prosperous than she had envisioned. Chapter 11:13. Chapter 383. Han Feng returns home, new road pass rules, Xia City street vendors, and the black-robed child blocking the way. The outer city of Daxia is divided into 4 sections: east, south, west, and north. Each section is further subdivided into 16 districts, each accommodating over 100,000 people. Currently, only the east city is activated. When I last visited, there were 11 districts. I'm not sure how many there are now. Look ahead, that's the core region of the outer city right now. With her husband's explanation, Tan Ru immediately lifted her head and looked ahead, toward the east. One look and she immediately understood. Although there are many trees in Xia City, they are planted on both sides of the main road. The types of trees are clearly carefully selected, and their value decreases sequentially, probably meaning the rarer ones are planted further inside, so standing on the main road, the view is completely unobstructed. Several kilometers to the east of the main road, a vast cluster of buildings stands majestically. Inside, the fires flicker and smoke curls sparsely above, just as Han Feng had mentioned earlier. That is the current core region of the outer city. The 4 people continued walking along the main road, and soon reached the cluster of buildings. "Mom, look, what's that hanging on top of that house? It's spinning nonstop. Such a fragrant aroma. Are they cooking? I've never smelled something so good before. Dad, look at the clothes they're wearing. They're so nice." Han Ming and Han Rui, the 2 young ones, had long since gotten off their father's lap and were walking on their own. Once in the building area, they excitedly broke away from Han Feng's hand, looking here and asking there, their faces filled with curiosity and exploration. The 4 continued walking further in, and suddenly heard the cries of vendors from the streets. "Xinghan Point, 2 coins a pack, take a look. Sour crystal fruit skewers, 5 coins per skewer, delightful sweet and sour taste, come have a look. Chen's exclusive dried Maine meat, seasoned with refined salt, heavy on the salt, delicious and not greasy, 140 coins per caddy, only 50 caddies available today, no deception, come have a look, everyone." Not just Han Ming, Han Rui, and Tan Ru, but even Han Feng hadn't seen this scene when he came at the end of last year. Now hearing shouts from all directions and seeing the variety of items in many roadside houses, the family of 4 was dumbfounded. "Dad, this sour crystal fruit skewer smells so good, I want to eat it." Children's ability to embrace new things is the strongest, and while Han Feng and his wife were still processing it all, Han Ming had already pulled his brother to a nearby stall, eagerly pointing at a string of red items on the stall, pleading with their father to buy some. On that stall, everything was sold in strings, with typically 4 fist-sized fruits strung together. Han Feng recognized immediately that those fruits were the commonly seen crystal fruits in Longyu, but crystal fruits are white, with not much fragrance, usually the staple food for smaller camps. However, the crystal fruits displayed on the stall were as red as gemstones and emitted an extremely pleasant fragrance. With just this appearance, not only were the children Han Ming and Han Rui attracted, but even wife Tan Ru couldn't resist stopping and sniffing closer. The owner of the stall was an elderly man who seemed over 60, with cultivation only in the earth-digging realm. His business was indeed good, with many people queuing up to buy. The money handed over by the customers to the stall owner were silver round plates, about 6 to 7 centimeters in diameter, with a square hole in the center. Both sides of the plates were engraved with a beautiful Xia character. After staring for a while, Han Feng's expression slightly shifted. 1,000 forged level iron plates, silver in color due to the dense forging patterns. 1,000 forged level iron coin, even though it's so small, would likely require hundreds of pounds to cast just one piece. Is this the currency used for circulation by Great Xia? Soon, Han Feng noticed that someone had paid with silver. The old stall owner accepted the silver, waited briefly, then took a jar from below and carefully counted 9 larger 10,000 forged iron coins, plus 5,000 forged iron coins, as change for the customer. 1 tael of silver, giving you 95 coins and change. Using 1,000 forged iron coins as the base, 1 tael of silver equals 100 coins, and 1 10,000 forged coin equals 10 coins, following the rules set by the 8 Towns Chamber of Commerce in Mo Mountain. Han Feng instantly realized, having been to Jinshan City and bought things in the Chamber of Commerce in Jinshan Town, that Great Xia now uses the same monetary system as the 8 towns. The problem is, the 8 towns only allow their Chamber of Commerce to operate this way, and although they sell externally, they don't permit ordinary people to directly conduct transactions like this. Great Xia has simply opened up, allowing everyone to trade this way. Han Feng's expression slightly shook, and many thoughts raced through his mind. Meanwhile, it was finally his turn in line. He waved generously with his hand, buying 4 skewers, receiving 10,000 forged coins as change from the stall owner, and continued walking forward with his wife. But soon a small incident occurred. "You two hold on." A little fellow wearing a black silk velvet hat, wrapped in a small black robe, not even revealing his face, suddenly blocked Han Ming and Han Rui standing in front of them. Although the little fellow was significantly taller than Han Ming and Han Rui, from the sound of his voice, one could tell he was at most 5 or 6 years old. Han Ming and Han Rui, newcomers to Xia City, were still excited. Seeing a peer blocking them didn't scare them but excited them more. "Who are you? Why should we stop?" As they spoke, Han Feng behind them stared at the little boy in the black robe, his expression immediately growing heavy, but soon he realized something and looked behind the little boy, his expression turning incredibly excited. Because I'm a big bad guy, when I tell you to stop, you have to stop. Now I'm going to ask you a question. If you can answer it, I'll treat you to something delicious. How about it?" Han Ming was not shy at all, waving the sour crystal fruit skewer in his hand and said, "My dad bought us something delicious. I don't need your treat." Yikes! Seeing what was in Han Ming's hand, the little boy in the black robe couldn't help but let out a disdainful sound and then purposefully acted mysteriously. "Sour crystal fruit skewers, they're sour and tangy. What's so delicious about that? Sugar-coated gourd skewers, 1 bite, sweet, fragrant, and sour. That's the real good stuff. Tusk tusk." The little boy in the black robe, full of mischief, exaggeratedly smacked his lips as he seemingly recalled the delightful taste of the sugar-coated gourd skewers. Han Ming and Han Rui were immediately captivated. Having just tasted the sour crystal fruit skewers, they believe it's the best tasting thing ever. Upon hearing from the child in front that there's something even more delicious, their mouths watered. "As long as you answer my question, I'll treat you. What do you say?" "All right, go ahead." "How old are you? Specify your age in months. You must tell me clearly." No one had expected the little boy to ask such a question. Han Feng had already guessed the little boy's identity, so his expression became somewhat tense, but realizing something, he eagerly turned to his 2 sons, nearly answering for them. Older brother Han Ming spoke first. "I'm 5 years and 1 month old." Following him, younger brother Han Rui said, "I just turned 4. "Ha ha ha, you're only a month older than me and you're even younger by a year. You'll have to wait till next year to start cultivation. That's great. We can play together in the future." After hearing their age, the little boy in the black robe started clapping happily, directly approaching Han Ming and Han Rui, removing the black veil from his face, issuing an invitation to play together in the future. Upon hearing the little boy's words, Han Feng instantly understood. The little boy was frustrated due to his age being insufficient for cultivation, and therefore seeking out companions who share the same predicament. Seeing the little boy's true appearance, Han Feng's expression was filled with profound shock, realizing that his earlier speculation was correct. Hearing the invitation to his 2 sons to play together in the future, his expression became deeply excited. Chapter 11:14. Chapter 384. His Highness's New Friends, Settling in the Inner City Accelerated Cultivation, 5th Birthday Banquet. The moment the child took off the black cover, revealing his true face, not only Han Feng, but also Tan Ru, who stood beside him, had their expressions momentarily frozen. Under the mask was a cute little face carved like jade. The child's skin was so pure and delicate, without a trace of wind or frost damage. Tan Ru, who had lived for more than 30 years, had never seen such good skin and was momentarily stunned. Though he was taller than his peers, judging by his appearance, he was only about 5 or 6 years old. The child's black silk knit velvet cap was hollow, with half-long black hair meticulously gathered at the top of his head, secured by an exquisite small silver crown and 3 silver hairpins. The 3 silver hairpins shone brightly, engraved with intricate glass patterns and sculpted at the ends into 3 different small cold beasts. though each miniature beast had a diameter of no more than 3 centimeters. Their eyes, foreheads, bodies, limbs, and even fur were vividly detailed. The hairpins used for tying hair were exquisitely crafted, and the small silver crown on the child's head was even more so. Other than the solid bottom edge with a single layer of engravings, the rest was woven with silver threads and topped with a thumb-sized golden bead. It was exquisitely beautiful. Beneath the child's black robe, the innermost gold lining shimmered faintly, and the custom-made black garment on top emitted a visible glow, indicating the extraordinary material, not to mention the two-tone gold and silver thread patterns interwoven in the fabric. The child's neck, waist, wrists, and even the brim of his cap were adorned with various accessories. No, they shouldn't be called accessories. They must be treasures. The child's cap brim was pressed curiously low, yet even so, the pair of bright, confident, and spirited eyes beneath were extremely striking. Tanru, though over 30, considered herself knowledgeable, yet after observing this child, a profound sense of inferiority surged in her heart. Seeing her two sons standing so close to him, she almost felt the urge to pull them back beside her. It seemed a long time, but it was just a moment. "Your Highness, you took off the cover again. We agreed not to do this in the outer city. If you don't keep your word, I'll go back and tell the madam." Today Xie Yusheng had befriended two new companions. Just after he removed the cover, lost in excitement, preparing to continue talking with Han Ming and Han Rui, he heard Han Shuang's voice from behind. Upon hearing Han Shuang's threat to tell his mother, Xie Yusheng swiftly placed the cover back, hurriedly turning around to plead, "Aunt Shuang, I was wrong. I won't take off the cover again. Please don't tell my mom." Han Shuang, who had already approached, first helped Xie Yusheng adjust the black feather cover, then pretended to contemplate, softly saying, "It's almost dawn. If your Highness promises to go back to the star-picking hall obediently, I won't tell madam. How about it?" Okay, I'll go back right away." Without hesitation, Xie Yusheng agreed. Tomorrow would be his and his two sisters' 5th birthday, and his mother Li Xuanling would definitely leave seclusion. If Han Shuang really told Mother Li Xuanling about him removing the cover in the outer city, he probably wouldn't be allowed to leave the inner city for the coming year. A true man must know when to yield and stand firm. After agreeing, Xie Yusheng remembered something, turned to look at the two newly acquainted friends, and said with feigned grandiosity, "You two, as Aunt Shuang's nephews, you are now friends of mine, the Crown Prince. Aunt Shuang told me you'll be living in the inner city, and I will visit you to play." "Great, we'll wait for you." Children are different from adults. Tanru could discern from Xie Yusheng's attire and demeanor that his identity was remarkable. But Han Ming and Han Rui couldn't. They sensed he was different from them but didn't feel inferior, immediately agreeing. Finally satisfied, Xie Yusheng turned, heading towards the inner city. "Nangying Qiu, escort His Highness back to the star-picking hall. I'll follow soon." Han Shuang didn't leave. She instructed the accompanying maids to hurry, watching Xie Yusheng's group move away, before turning to Han Feng's family with a smile, "Brother, sister-in-law, you've finally arrived." She went to the outer city tonight specifically to meet her elder brother Han Feng's family. Normally, no matter how much Xie Yusheng kicked up a fuss, she wouldn't dare bring him to the outer city. Today, Xie Yusheng was lucky, coinciding with the return of Lord Xie Hong from outside. The little rascal cunningly knew Han Shuang dared not bring him out, promptly begged Xie Hong, who was not as strict as Li Xuanling. Seeing his son pleading, Xie Hong soon relented. Of course, Xie Hong also asked why Han Shuang was going to the outer city. Upon learning she was fetching her brother Han Feng's family, he immediately agreed to Xie Yusheng's request to play in the outer city. Hence the scene just now. Hearing his sister's call, a smile emerged on Han Feng's face, but he quickly recalled something, leaned forward and softly asked, "Shuinger, was that little prince just now?" Han Shuang simply nodded and said softly, "That's the Lord's eldest son, Prince Yusheng, who just turned 5 this year." Chapter 11:15. Chapter 384. His Highness's New Friends, Settling in the Inner City, Accelerated Cultivation, Age 5 Banquet Part 2. Just as expected. Han Feng showed a look of understanding on his face, lowered his head to look at his two sons, and his eyes suddenly lit up. He laughed and said, "You two are luckier than your father. You've barely arrived at Xia City and already met noble people, ha ha ha." After laughing, he remembered something and continued, quickly, "Call your aunt. This is my younger sister, your aunt." Han Ming greets aunt. Han Rui greets aunt. Seeing her two nephews greet her, Han Shuang felt a surge of affection in her heart, smiled, and walked forward to touch the foreheads of the two children. Then she took out two silver-black jade stones from her bosom, giving one to each. And heard about you two little fellows at the end of last year. Today I finally get to meet you in person. This is my gift to you. Seeing his brother wanting to refuse the gifts for his nephews, Han Shuang immediately shook her head and softly said, "Brother, these are all external possessions. With your abilities, you can easily obtain them in the future. Let me make a nice gesture for my nephews first." Knowing his sister's temperament well, Han Feng could only smile helplessly. But as Han Shuang said, he has strength to rely on. Now that he's in Great Xia, he will certainly be able to obtain these things in the future. With that thought, a wave of confidence surged in his heart, and he said no more. In the future, he would return the favor 100-fold. Brother, sister-in-law, follow me. Over the years, my sister and I have accumulated quite a bit of wealth in Xia City. There's a house in the inner city we seldom use since we usually live in the star-picking hall. You and your family can stay there for now. With the thoughts he just had, Han Feng naturally wouldn't refuse his sister anymore, and nodded, then led his wife and two sons to follow his sister to the inner city. However, after walking for a while, he remembered something and whispered to his sister, "Shuanger, after I returned to Guyan village at the end of last year, I went to Jinshan City several times and gathered quite a bit of useful information. Can you find a way for me to see the Lord? These matters should be useful to Great Xia." Upon hearing this, Han Shuang shook her head without thinking, looking at Han Feng with a strange expression. "Brother, what do you take your sister for? I'm just the maid deputy of Star-Picking Hall. Not even sister can easily take someone to see the Lord. Lu Shuzheng has arranged everything for you. I'll take you to the residence first. Tomorrow morning, Deputy Director of the Supervision Department, Lord Su Ning, will summon you in the Inner City Supervision Department Hall. You can tell him whatever you've found. If it's really important, he will relay it to the Lord." Han Feng quickly understood upon hearing this, and nodded with a trace of a wry smile. Great Xia now isn't the same Great Xia that had just invaded Longyu. His strength at 17 Zong might be decent elsewhere, but in Great Xia, it's obviously insufficient. Lord Xia Hong is now a famed Xianyang-level overlord across 9 towns, and there are those calling him the strongest in Mo's southern slope. It's impossible to meet him just because you want to. Han Feng took a slight breath, quickly steadied his mindset, then his eyes reignited with fighting spirit, thinking to himself, "One can't meet him now doesn't mean one can't meet him in the future. I'm likely to be assigned back to Jinshan Town to infiltrate further. As long as I can gather more useful intel for Great Xia from Jinshan City, I'll eventually earn the Lord's attention." Of course, cultivation is the most crucial. As long as the strength is strong enough, it will naturally draw attention. The 8th year of De Xia, August 5. The usually somewhat quiet star-picking hall was lively again today. The reason is simple, because today there are 3 little birthday stars celebrating together. Right as night fell, the beautifully dressed Xia Yuning, Xia Yuyao, and Xia Yusheng siblings were already seated around the round table in the main hall of Star-Picking Hall. And of course, the eldest Xia Yuzong was not left out. The maids were setting dishes and arranging wine beside the table. Seeing the little ones, usually mischievous, now sitting with hands on the table, back straight and staring straight ahead with an upright posture, couldn't help but cover their mouths and giggle. The usually calm and upright Xia Yuzong, compared to the 3 of them now, appeared to be the most normal. These little ones, usually fearless, are only correct and proper in presence of the one above the star-picking platform. All the maids couldn't help but turn their heads and glance at the entrance of the star-picking platform. Madam has been in seclusion for a long time this time, right? Madam has been back since the end of April. Besides leaving seclusion 3 times to check on the 2 lords, she has hardly left the star-picking platform. 3 months already. That's indeed quite long. Madam's cultivation practice is quite diligent. I've heard rumors outside that Madam's strength in our great Xia town ranks just below the lords. Do you think it's true? Of course it's true. I went a long mountain with Madam last year and saw it myself. She could independently slay an advanced cold beast. Her strength is indeed terrifying. While the maids below were discussing, up on the star-picking platform, Li Xuanling quietly opened her eyes, just happening to meet the eyes of Xia Hong, who was staring at her. Xia Hong was less than half a meter away from her, almost leaning into her face. The 2 have been married for nearly 6 years now, practically like an old couple. Despite that, being stared at so boldly at such a close distance by Zia Hong, Li Xuanling couldn't help but blush slightly, snapping in mock anger. "What are you staring at me for?" 56 Zong. You've improved by more than 2 Zongs in just 3 months. Your cultivation speed has started to accelerate again. Chapter 11:16. Chapter 384. His Highness's new friend, settling in the inner city, cultivation speed increases, 5th birthday banquet part 3. Zia Hong wore a faint smile on his face. He remembered clearly that when he broke through to Xianyang level and emerged last September, Li Xuanling was at a strength of 51 strands. By the end of April, when he went to Qinghipu to handle affairs, her strength had surpassed 53 strands. In 8 months, she had only increased her strength by a little over 2 strands. It was true that as Li Xuanling progressed, her rate of improvement became slower and slower. If she continued at this cultivation pace, it would probably take her at least 3 years to raise her strength to 68 strands and break through the peak of cold resistance, just as estimated last September. But just over the past 3 months, during her seclusion, Li Xuanling had surprisingly increased her strength by more than 2 strands. Her cultivation speed had evidently picked up once more. Thanks to the 12 blood scripture skills you brought back from Mayan City, my current cultivation speed is about the same as when I was at the mid-stage cold resistance. For the final 12 strands of strength, as long as the supply of blood ginseng pills is uninterrupted, I estimate that at the earliest by the end of next year, I can break through to the peak of cold resistance and then strive for the Xianyang level. Mentioning her goal to reach the Xianyang level, Li Xuanling's eyes sparkled with eager anticipation. Upon hearing this, Zia Hong also displayed a smile and nodded, saying, "Rest assured about the blood ginseng pills. Mayan Town can sell 50 pills to Great Zia each month, probably enough to support the cultivation of 5 people. The 12 blood scripture skills from Mayan Town can enhance the efficiency of the body's absorption of medicinal power by accelerating the blood and qi circulation through the 12 meridians, which is why Li Xuanling's cultivation speed increased over the past 3 months. Unfortunately, the cultivation conditions for the 12 blood scripture skills are exceptionally stringent. Firstly, it requires very high meridian attributes for the cultivator. Ordinary top-grade battle body qualifications are insufficient for practice. Zia Hong roughly estimated that when breaking through the cold resistance level, the basic strength needs to be at least 5 strands to meet its cultivation conditions. With just this selection criterion, currently in Great Zia, only he and his wife, along with Zia Chuan and Yuan Dao, can cultivate it. Su Ning is still uncertain, so he can try it later. Secondly, the principle of this technique is to constantly wash away impurities in the meridians with a special medicinal power, thereby enhancing the speed of blood and qi circulation. This special medicinal power originates from Mayan Town's unique secret medicine, the blood ginseng pill. According to the technique's description, one person's cultivation requires approximately 1 blood ginseng pill every 3 days, amounting to 10 pills a month. Mayan Town sells 50 pills each month, just enough to supply 5 people's cultivation. No wonder Murong Chui was so generous, showing me the technique right away. Seeing the technique is just the first step. Whether it can be practiced is a question. Even if it can be practiced, we still have to buy blood ginseng pills from Mayan Town later. They're treating us like a cash cow. Is it expensive? Hearing the term cash cow, Li Xuanling asked curiously. 180,000 taels per pill. Do you say that's expensive? 180,000 taels per pill. 50 pills is 9 million taels, equivalent to 900,000 caddies of silver. The key point is that this is just a monthly expense. In this way, simply from selling the blood ginseng pills, Mayan Town can earn 10.8 million caddies of silver from Great Zia each year. Not just expensive, it's outrageously expensive. Li Xuanling immediately shook her head repeatedly, saying, "In that case, hurry up and let Cheng Feng lead the harvesting department to research the formula for the blood ginseng pills." Zia Hong chuckled and shook his head. "It's not that simple. Many ingredients in this potion come from Mo Mountain, and there are likely some specialized drugs unique to the Mayan region. Other than the 8 towns, they haven't been developed yet. We've only been here for a short time, so it's impossible to have results so quickly. The primary function of the alchemy workshop is identification. Once a type of drug has been identified, it will be recorded, and then based on the properties of these various drugs, it will automatically synthesize and generate various Dan medicine formulas. It currently functions like a database with automatic integration capabilities. To maximize its function, the only way is to keep introducing various new spirit plants and allow its database to expand continuously. Eventually, the synthesized formulas will naturally increase. Analyzing the composition of new Dan medicines currently relies solely on pharmacists trained by the alchemy workshop, so the efficiency is bound not to be very high. New Dan medicines obtained recently from Daju Temple include green food pills, fire melting pills, Zen gold powder, shock sky pill, and primordial soul pill, among others. They are all still in the research stage. Li Xuanling obviously understood this principle as well, and nodded. The function of the alchemy workshop will grow stronger with the expansion of our territories. Why didn't you occupy Baisong Camp during the Hongmen banquet in late April? The advantage of marrying a smart wife is now evident. Li Xuanling not only pointed out the key functionality of the alchemy workshop, but also questioned Zia Hong's decision not to seize Baisong Camp, showcasing her keen insight. Baisong Camp is located on the east side of the Bashing territory, right next to Mo Mountain. Taking control of it would give Great Zia access to Mo Mountain, obviously benefiting future camp expansion greatly. Zia Hong laughed and said, "Isn't Jiachu Camp important?" Li Xuanling immediately realized what he meant. At the Hongmen banquet, Zia Hong occupied two places, Bashing City and Jiachu Camp. Let's not mention Bashing City, with its population aside, as a town-level city. It is definitely the most valuable asset of the 9 towns, without exception. Jiachu Camp is certainly important, not only serving as the gateway to Bashing City, but also as the key to controlling the Bashing water area. Bashing is situated on the east bank of the Xing River, and only 15 kilometers of the water area have been developed, conveniently all within the Jiachu Camp territory. Compared to Great Zia's overall territory at the moment, the value produced by the water area is indeed much higher than that of the land, so Zia Hong's decision not to take Baisong, but to seize Jiachu is justifiable. Chapter 11:17, Chapter 384, The Prince's New Friend, Settling in the Inner City Faster Cultivation, 5th Birthday Banquet Part 4. And besides the water domain, I want the land as well. Zia Hong's face showed a touch of dominance as he continued. I already discussed it with Xiaohu Zhang last month. Jiangxia Town will allocate He Yin Village at the southernmost tip of the Baisong Camp to us. This includes the area 20 kilometers eastward up Mo Mountain, which will be the entrance to the mountains for Great Zia from now on. Li Xuanling immediately realized that Zia Hong had deliberately waited until now to tell her this. Seeing his confident demeanor, she couldn't help but give him a sidelong glance. The Mo Mountain Range runs northwest to southeast. The 9 towns are located at its southern slope, much like the old Redwood Ridge. The 9 towns had long divided up the over 800 kilometers along the range. Bashing is not considered strong within the 9 towns, previously holding only a span of over 60 kilometers. As the entirety of Baisong is now assigned to Jiangxia, this 60-plus kilometers of area naturally also belongs to Jiangxia Town. To give us a 20-kilometer mountain entrance is equivalent to giving away a third of it. Xiaohu Zhang is truly generous. Hearing Li Xuanling's exclamation, Zia Hong chuckled and said, Jiangxia Town is now relying on us. He can't afford not to be generous. Thinking of Zia Hong's current prestige in the 9 towns, Li Xuanling had to nod in agreement with his statement. Then, curious about something, she asked, who are you planning to give the Yan Long and Vajra organs to? Among those with a superior battle body in camp, whoever can bring out 10 million contribution value will get them. So that would be Lu Yang and Yuan Cheng. Upon hearing the figure of 10 million contribution value, Li Xuanling understood instantly. She had administered Zia City for a while at the beginning of the year, so she was well aware that there are only 4 people in Great Zia who could bring out over 10 million contribution value. Zia Chuan and Yuan Dao both have top-grade battle bodies and surely don't need them, so that leaves only Lu Yang and Yuan Cheng. Then it's a pity for Qiu Peng. I remember his contribution value is also over 9 million. Zia Hong laughed. With too many people and too little to go around, there's no helping it. However, Qiu Peng manages the camp supply department and doesn't have as much opportunity to be out and about, so his urgency to improve his strength isn't as high as Yuan Cheng and Lu Yang. Let him save up his contribution value for now. Next time there's something good again, it'll be his turn. Li Xuanling nodded, sensed the commotion in the main hall of the star-picking hall, and immediately frowned slightly. All right, let's go down. Those three little ones can hardly sit still. Zia Hong chuckled and led her down towards the star-picking platform. The main hall of the star-picking hall was in an uproar at this moment. I want to go out and play. I want to go out and play. It's already past meal time, and my mother surely isn't coming out. Dad promised me that I could go to the outer city after turning 5. Your Highness, please sit a little longer. The madam will be down shortly. No, 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 I'm already full. I want to go out. Your Highness, it's just after nightfall. The city is crowded now. We can't just run around. It's because there are so many people that I want to go out and play. I want to go out. I want to go out. I want to go out. I want to go out too. Me too, me too. They. Ziyu Yao sat properly for over 10 minutes without seeing her mother, Li Xuanling, come out, finally revealing her true nature. Initially, only she was causing a fuss, and Han Yue, Han Shuang, and other maids barely managed to placate her. As Zia Yusheng and Zia Yuning got influenced by her and also started clamoring to go play, the maids began to feel overwhelmed. Ahem. Brother, why are you coughing? Don't you want to play outside? Hearing her elder brother Zia Yuzong cough, Zia Yuyao immediately turned her head, finding him winking hard in her direction. Her heart suddenly sensed something, and she quickly turned back to sneak a peek behind her. With that peek, her pretty little face suddenly froze. Her father, Zia Hong, was standing at the star-picking platform exit, looking at them with a mischievous smile, while her stern-faced mother, Li Xuanling, stood right behind him. Mom, I was wrong. Ha 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 ha, only your mother can handle you. Zia Hong burst into laughter, stepped forward to pick up his little niece, Zia Yuning. After sitting down, he tapped her tiny nose and gently asked, Ninger, your parents are busy at Hongmen. Big Uncle will celebrate your birthday this year, is that okay? Okay. Zia Yuning was initially a bit startled by the sudden appearance of her uncle and aunt, but being picked up by Zia Hong immediately dispelled her fear, and she replied crisply with an approval. All right, then let's start the feast. The Hongmen port was officially opened at the beginning of May, and just announced its opening to all within the 8 towns territory in July, keeping everyone extremely busy. Qiu Peng alone couldn't manage it, so Zia Chuan stayed over there too. Half a month ago, Zio Ning and Zio Yu also went over to help. This time, none of the three could make it back for the celebration of the little ones' birthdays. With Zia Hong announcing the start of the feast, the 6 of them, 2 adults and 4 children, happily began their meal together. Chapter 11:18, Chapter 385, Trade Han Peng's team, arrival at Hongmen City. The 8th year of Great Zia, the first day of September. The deep integration of the 9 towns of Mo South Slope was not just superficial. Interactions, marriages, alliances, and treaties certainly deepened the connections between the towns, but the core of their integration was trade. With trade, the 9 towns could exchange resources, ranging from precious cultivation resources to armor and tools used for hunting, to various daily necessities. This flow of goods gave the townspeople more options, such as the southernmost Bashing people being able to wear the exclusive red gauze garments from Mayan Town, while the northernmost Beishuo people could use the exclusive dragon carp pill from Jiangxia Town, and so on. Thanks to trade, the 9 towns could learn from each other, from management systems and position designs of the town's domains, to martial arts and hunting techniques, common issues and challenges in cultivation, down to some everyday life tips. The exchange of information driven by trade greatly facilitated life and cultivation for the town's people. Because of trade, the 9 towns could integrate resources, not only significantly boosting productivity, but also occasionally bringing something new to light. There are many examples of increased productivity, such as silk cloth. Silk cloth is a specialty of Beishuo Town, with its main material being mulberry silk. Known for its soft and delicate texture, it offers windproof and thermal properties, making it one of the top clothing fabrics in the 9 towns. Mulberry silk comes from the white mulberry tree, which is common in Mo Mountain. However, each tree produces only 3 to 5 pounds of silk per year, and 30 pounds of silk yield merely 1 meter of silk cloth. In the early days, when Beishuo Town had just developed silk cloth from mulberry silk, it sold for 50 taels of silver per meter. Considering that an adult's clothing required at least 2 meters, the raw material alone was costly, let alone the finished clothes. Back then, garments made from silk cloth sold for at least 120 taels, and if crafted by a famous artisan, the price could easily increase by an additional 30 to 50%. However, as trade routes opened between the 9 towns, mulberry silk from the 8 towns flooded into Baishuo. The production of silk cloth in Baishuo town immediately surged. Initially, Baishuo tried to keep this a secret to continue profiting from high silk cloth prices. But as the secret of mulberry silk being the raw material for silk cloth became known to the other 8 towns, who then raised the prices of mulberry silk, and as Wuchuan town developed its own silk cloth production technique, Baishuo had no choice but to lower prices. Now, the price of silk cloth has decreased to 5 taels of silver per meter, a tenfold decrease from before. This price reduction means more people can afford it. When it was 50 taels per meter, only those at the cold resistance level could wear it. Now, with the tenfold price drop, even those at the earth-digging realm limit or even earth-digging realm can wear it. The hallmark of increased productivity isn't just quantity, but also the emergence of new things after resource integration, with the most representative being the Tiger Power Pill from Jinshan Town. People with peak cold resistance level cultivation now have 3 choices for further advancement: the Tiger Power Pill, Dragon Carp Pill, and Green Cod Pill. But more than 50 years ago, there was only the Green Cod Pill from Bashing. 60 years ago, Zai Huming, father of Zai Hujiang, risked his life to open a water area for Jiangxia Town. Thanks to that water area, Jiangxia Town successfully developed the Dragon Carp Pill, providing a new option for those at peak cold resistance level in all 9 towns. The Tiger Power Pill from Jinshan Town is entirely a product of resource integration. Jinshan Town developed a Dan medicine for cold resistance level cultivation called Tiger Yang Pill. 20 years ago, Dragon Valley Town discovered a spirit plant called Tiger Pattern Grass deep in Mole Mountain. After years of futile research, they eventually decided to sell it to the other 8 towns for study. After acquiring the Tiger Pattern Grass, Jinshan Town researched for a few years and unexpectedly developed the Tiger Power Pill formula. Thus, those at peak cold resistance level in the 9 towns finally had a third option. Official trade among the 9 towns began over 70 years ago, a move that not only strengthened the towns, but also enriched everyone's material life and significantly elevated the average cultivation of the people. It's no exaggeration to say that the human civilization progress on the south slope of Mole Mountain began to rapidly develop after the 9 towns started trading. You young people have no idea how hard it was over 70 years ago. Back then, the 9 towns barely interacted. Any interaction usually meant war, with village-level camps being obliterated at any time, and deceitful monsters frequently wreaking havoc, making human life miserable. At night, on the Bluestone Road north of Hongmen, a team of about 100 people pressed on with 2 large 4-wheeled wagons, braving wind and snow to head south slowly. Since the team was already within the Great Zia Town territory, the snow on the Bluestone Road wasn't thick, evidence of regular clearing by nearby village-level camps. Most of the people in the team were pushing or pulling the wagons, with only about a dozen decently dressed individuals leading the way. The elderly leader was narrating the trade story of the 9 towns to a group of young people nearby. The dozen or so people listening to the elder nodded slightly in agreement. Only 2 youths in casual attire seemed distracted, their eyes constantly fixed on the direction of Hongmen to the south. Chapter 1119, Chapter 385, Trade Han Peng's team, arrival at Hongmen City /2. There was also a middle-aged man who, after pondering for a moment, shook his head and sighed softly to the elder. Old Han, everything you've said is correct, but unfortunately, the major benefits brought by the 9 towns trade are mostly taken by the 9 town cities. For our village-level camps, we only get the leftovers without enjoying much of the real benefits. Strictly speaking, we're merely working for the towns. As the middle-aged man finished speaking, the expressions of the group became subtly nuanced. The elder's eyes flashed with a trace of gloom as he surreptitiously glanced at the 2 young men in the group, noticing their furrowed brows. He immediately said, "Leader Yue, you shouldn't speak so recklessly. Trade was originally coordinated by the 9 towns, so it's understandable that the towns gain the most profit. You should think it over. Without the 9 towns trade, how could we possibly have seen so many good things? Even if we see them, we can't afford them, so what's the use? Legitimate trade only exists among the 9 town cities. Without trade tokens issued by the towns, we have no right to cross towns to buy goods. Even if we go there with silver, we would have to do so covertly. If we're lucky, we get overcharged but at least get the goods. If not, we might get robbed and lose everything, which happens frequently. Exactly, the resources traded among the 9 town cities are sold to our village-level camps with a markup of 20%. Apart from some low-cost items, anything slightly expensive is out of our reach, and for some higher-end goods, we don't even have the right to buy them. Yue Long's words, after all, resonated with even more people. The elders' attempt to mitigate did the opposite, unintentionally stirring more discontent towards the towns, as people began voicing their dissatisfaction. This brings up the 3 trade rules established by the 9 towns. First, trade is limited to the 9 town cities. Second, not just anyone can participate in the trade. Apart from the 9 towns trade guild, anyone else wishing to trade across towns requires a trade token from the guild. Lastly, there's a trade time restriction, as trading doesn't occur continuously, but only when the trade channels open simultaneously in September and October, facilitating a flow of goods, silver, and coins. With the limitations of these 3 rules, combined with the fact that all village-level camps on the south slope of Moho Mountain can only trade at their respective town cities, the outcome isn't hard to deduce. The towns and village-level camps inherently have unequal productivity. For example, the same 10 forged-level weapons, towns can undoubtedly crush village-level camps in craftsmanship. To boost combat power, people from village-level camps can only use more basic resources to trade at the towns. This inequality in productivity naturally results in the 9 towns exploiting their respective village-level camps. While this exploitation is severe in normal times, once the 9 towns start trading, whether due to increased demand for various basic resources or other costs within the trade, or for other reasons, it undoubtedly exacerbates this exploitation. Take a kind of Dan medicine from Beishuo Town used to treat severe cold, called recovery pill, for example. It's a lifesaver in village-level camps with weak cold resistance because of its mild nature and suitability for both adults and children. The main ingredient of the recovery pill is rewarming grass. Initially, this Dan medicine was priced at 20 silver per pill. After the 9 towns began trading, Beishuo noticed that similar medicines made by the other 8 towns were not only less effective, but only usable by adults. Seeing the demand, they immediately doubled the price to 40 silver per pill. This price increase didn't only target the other 8 towns, but also affected the village-level camps within Beishuo's own territory. Since the recovery pill price increased, the logic would dictate that the price of rewarming grass, as the main ingredient, along with other drugs in the formula, should also rise. The problem is, can these village-level camps dare to raise prices against the town? The crux of the issue is that they don't dare, and because the recovery pill became popular in the 8 towns, Beishuo City's demand for rewarming grass increased dramatically. Not wanting to spend too much for procurement, they deliberately forced the purchasing price down. Facing such blatant bullying, the village-level camps can only swallow their rage and accept it. Beishuo's recovery pill is just one example. There are countless items like the recovery pill used by the town cities to exploit the subordinate village-level camps. The people in the village-level camps aren't fools. Over time, everyone realizes that while they have enjoyed a little of the trade's dividends, the majority is taken by the towns, without a doubt. Crucially, to gain that small benefit, they're exploited even more severely. Thus, when weighing the pros and cons, it turns out they basically end up with nothing. For some villages without special products, it's a case of more harm than good. That's why Yue Long's remarks immediately struck a chord with everyone. Everyone, be cautious with your words, be cautious. Seeing the 2 young men's furrowed brows deepening, Han Peng couldn't help but once again urge caution, then quickly interjected with a smile. Isn't there now the great Xia Town, willing to open trade channels to all of us? All village-level camps in the 9 towns can finally see some light. Chapter 1120. Chapter 385. Trade. Han Peng's team arrives at Hongmen City Part 3. Upon hearing Han Peng's words, everyone immediately perked up. Yue Long nodded emphatically and said, Old Han is right. Ever since Hongmen opened in July, our village-level camps have truly come into their own. He paused for a moment, his expression gradually becoming excited, and continued. It's rumored that the rare treasures sold at Hongmen are countless, with all kinds of cultivation resources in abundance. There are more than 70 types of Dan medicine alone, from the beast essence pill for 6-year-old children to strengthen their bodies, to the dragon carp pill and green cod pill for enhancing strength at the peak of cold resistance. They have everything, and Great Zia sells these things without regard to status. As long as you have the silver, they'll sell whatever you need. As soon as Yue Long finished speaking, everyone opened up and spoke excitedly one after another. It's not just that they're willing to sell, the key is that the prices are even cheaper than in the 8 towns. For instance, the dragon carp pill and green cod pill that Brother Yue just mentioned, the lowest price in the 8 towns is 120,000 taels, whereas Great Zia only asks for 100,000 taels, and if you buy in bulk, they can even lower the price further. Those are the dragon carp pill and green cod pill. Anywhere else people would fight over them. Which of the 8 towns doesn't treat it like a treasure? Usually, they'd only release 100 pieces a year, yet Great Zia puts out 200 pieces every month, and it seems like that's not even their limit. It definitely isn't the limit. Think about it, Hongmen only just opened in July. Great Zia must be reserving a lot of things for trade with the other 8 towns in September and October. What they sell to us village-level camps is probably just the surplus. And after the Tiger Power Pill, Dragon Carp Pill, and Green Cod Pill last month, Great Zia introduced a 4th type of Dan medicine that can enhance strength for those with peak cold resistance level cultivation. I think it's called Black Death Pill. Yes, that's it, the Black Death Pill. I heard it just began selling at Hongmen last month. All the peak cold resistance cultivators in our Jinshan town went crazy when they heard and rushed to Hongmen to grab it. Not only are there many types of Dan medicine, but there are also plenty of other things like Zia silk, Zia cloth, summer wine, Zia salt, Zia paper. I'm acquainted with Han Feng, the deputy leader from Tan Village. You should know him too. At the end of last month, he let me taste a sip of Great Zia's cold blood wine. That taste, I reckon I'll never forget it in this lifetime. This time at Hongmen, I must buy some. Hahaha, I've also tasted some summer wine. That flavor is indeed enticing. After one sip, it's unforgettable. The key is not only does it taste good, but it also aids in the circulation of blood, enhancing the speed of cultivation, and it has a strong warming effect. In extremely cold conditions, it can even save lives. It's indeed a wonderful thing. There are over 30 kinds of summer wine, from the best to the worst. There's something for everyone. The cold blood wine you mentioned is just one of them, and it isn't too expensive, only 7,000 taels per pound. Upon hearing 7,000 taels a pound, everyone nodded. One person suddenly recalled something and sneered. The top-grade monkey alcohol produced in Beishuo City costs 10,000 taels of silver per pound, and they deliberately only release 500 pounds a year. Now with summer wine available, let's see if they dare to sell it at such a high price. This team tonight was mostly composed of people from Jinshan Town, and they typically didn't have a favorable view of their own town. Naturally, they had an even worse attitude when Beishuo Town was mentioned. A middle-aged man seemed to have some bad memories triggered by the mention of monkey alcohol, snorted coldly and said, "I've tasted monkey alcohol, and compared to summer wine, it's not even as good as wolf piss. It's just the Beishuo people who treat it like a treasure. Even if they gave it to me, I wouldn't drink it." Snow shadow wolves are the most common type of cold beast on the outskirts of Mo Mountain, known for marking their territory with hot urine. His remark was clearly intended to discuss the people of Beishuo. The others found his comment amusing and burst into laughter. Ha, the urine of a snow shadow wolf is warm and can melt snow and provide cold resistance. If it weren't for the fact that monkey alcohol could boost cultivation speed, who would drink it? Indeed, it's not even as good as wolf piss, ha. There is no doubt that the taste of monkey alcohol is not as good as summer wine. But given that it's so highly sought after by the upper echelons of the 9 towns, it can't truly be as these people mockingly portray it. In fact, those making snide remarks probably have never tasted monkey alcohol themselves. Since Beishuo only sells 500 pounds a year to the other 8 towns, those who can buy it are typically the upper class in those towns. The cold resistance level cultivators in these village-level camps naturally couldn't access it. Their mockery carries a strong emotional undertone, evidently motivated by a classic case of sour grapes. These people are merely a microcosm. It's not just them who harbors resentment towards the town. Practically every village-level camp on the southern slope of Mo Mountain harbors a long-standing grievance against the town. If not for the protection it provides and the lack of better alternatives, they wouldn't willingly endure the exploitation. Everyone took this opportunity to vent their grievances about the town by cursing Beishuo's monkey alcohol, paying no attention to the fact that the faces of the 2 young men in the side of the group had darkened considerably. Those two must be from Beishuo town. Han Peng casually glanced at the two young men on the side and noticed their faces growing increasingly grim, and he immediately understood. Everyone looked quickly. We're almost there, Hongmen City. After pondering for a moment and realizing that the crowd was getting more and more carried away, Han Peng knew if they continued, and if those two young men were to explode in anger, it would be difficult for him to handle the situation. So he looked ahead and promptly interrupted everyone. The group immediately quieted down, raising their heads to look southward, their pupils suddenly shaking fiercely. A kilometer to the south, a massive city wall spanned 5 or 6 kilometers from east to west, looming faintly in the night. Above the wall, numerous coal stoves and bonfires were suspended. Looking at those coal stoves and bonfires, the eyes of everyone in the team were filled with longing, holding great anticipation for the upcoming journey to Hongmen City. Of course, except for the two young men from Beishuo. Finally, we're here. Whether it's the great Zia from Redwood Ridge is about to be revealed. Yang Ning gazed at Hongmen City, a hint of shade flashing in his eyes, feeling both anticipation and an inexplicable complexity. Chapter 11:21, Chapter 384, Entering the City Using an Alias and Rule Breakers. Clang, clang, clang. When Han Peng's convoy of over 100 people was still 300 to 400 meters away from the city wall, they heard a dense hammering sound, like raindrops. The group raised their heads and found that with the city gate as the center, on both sides of the city wall, about 100 meters away, there were hundreds of people holding heavy hammers, standing on top of the wall, madly hammering it. The enormous city wall, nearly 20 meters high, slowly sunk into the ground under the relentless pounding of the hundreds of people. They're replacing the city wall. Look at those walls in the distance. They're made of wood and are likely going to be replaced with these four-corner iron pylons. Han Peng, with his sharp eyes, noticed the color difference in the walls and saw a large line of four-corner iron pylons laid out on the ground in the distance, immediately realizing what they were busy with. As soon as the others heard his hint, they immediately understood, and astonishment appeared simultaneously on their faces. These four-corner iron pylons, with sides 10 meters long and 20 meters high, how much iron ore would it take to produce just one? Yue Long couldn't help but speak up. Upon hearing this question, everyone fell into deep thought. Village-level camps generally have iron mines, so they are not unfamiliar with iron. The density of ice abyss iron ore is astounding, with a piece the size of a fist weighing about 40 to 50 pounds. Assuming a fist is an 8-centimeter cube, these four-corner iron pylons weigh at least 75,000 tons each. Gulp. The first person to calculate this couldn't help but swallow a gulp of saliva, looked at the length of the northern wall of Hongmen City, and his eyes were full of shock. 75,000 tons, that's almost the total production of a small iron mine. For just one iron pylon used for Hongmen City's wall to match a small mine vein. The key is, one pylon is 75,000 tons. The walls on all four sides of Hongmen are over 5 kilometers long, meaning at least 2,000 of these four-corner iron pylons are needed to replace all the wooden walls. Can Great Zia produce that much iron ore? Certainly, since it's a town-level camp. Doesn't each of the 8 towns on the south slope of Mo Mountain have hundreds of iron mines? Upon hearing Yue Long's question, everyone was momentarily stunned, but then they all nodded in agreement, and the leading Han Peng directly answered him. But after Han Peng finished speaking, he couldn't stop shaking his head and continued. But the 8 towns spend most of their iron ore on the town castles. Hongmen is just a trade port for Great Zia. Is it necessary to spend such a huge sum to build it up? This can almost match a third of the scale of a town. Han Peng, older and having visited all 9 towns of Mo Mountain, knew that among them, Dragon Valley City was the smallest. Even so, its walls extended to 15 kilometers. That's why he said Hongmen City matches a third of a town scale. Don't just focus on the walls, look at those craftsmen. By now, the convoy had reached near the city gate, and someone in the group suddenly noticed something, prompting everyone to look carefully at the craftsmen working on the wall. Everyone looked up, their bodies suddenly stiffening. Even though it was a combined effort, those craftsmen, who could move such heavy iron pylons, were no ordinary individuals. Though prepared for the sight of the iron pylons, they were still slightly startled upon realizing that all the craftsmen above the wall were of cold resistance level cultivation. There were about the same number of craftsmen on the walls on both sides, exceeding 200 each, totaling over 400 people. Over 400 cold resistance level craftsmen. Yue Long's words left the entire team in complete silence. A weaker village-level camp may have only 3 to 5 cold resistance level. Having more than 10 indicates decent strength, and if there are over 30, they are likely dominant in the surrounding villages. With over 50, they would be prominent in a town. Does Great Xia have over 400 cold resistance level craftsmen? The key is, this is just for constructing Hongmen City, likely only part of Great Xia Town's craftsmen. Han Peng, Yue Long, and the other cold resistance levels from the village-level camp of Jinshan Town were left speechless, and even the disguised Yang Zhen and Li Hu's pupils showed signs of shock. The strength of Great Xia far exceeded their expectations. All right, what's there to see about building a city wall? Now that you're here, quickly come into the city. Who's the leader? Come over and register. A voice suddenly sounded from ahead, redirecting everyone's attention to the gate area. It turns out that during their exclamations, the convoy had reached beneath the city gate. In the gate area, there were over 100 soldiers wearing 1,000 forged golden armor, wielding knives, patrolling back and forth. There were also dozens of people in plain clothes, responsible for registering those entering and leaving the city. The person who called out was also wearing the 1,000 forged golden armor, but unlike the other soldiers uniformly equipped with knives, he had a longsword hanging at his waist, indicating a clearly higher status. Han Peng glanced around slightly, seeing that the over 100 soldiers were all of cold resistance level cultivation, and having just witnessed the hundreds of craftsmen, he wasn't particularly stirred. He quickly lowered his stance with a very humble smile, approached with a bow. Old Han Peng, at your service, we are a caravan from Jinshan Town. Coincidentally, since entering September, the trade period for the 9 towns of Mole Mountain officially began. Xia Chuan knew that within the next 2 months, large numbers of outsiders would enter and exit Hongmen City. To ensure smooth trade and for the city's safety, he elevated the security level of the city gates, not only having Vice Commander Liu Yuan personally oversee it, but also rotating the 10 camps of the Cloud Jiao Army for garrison duty. Chapter 1122, Chapter 384, Entering the City Using Aliases Rule Breakers Part 2. Liu Yuan was taken aback by Han Peng's words, his face filled with suspicion. The people from the Jinshan Chamber of Commerce just arrived last night. Did you send 2 groups? Lord, there's a misunderstanding. Mistaken for being part of the Jinshan Chamber of Commerce's team, Han Peng immediately explained. It's not surprising Liu Yuan misunderstood, considering his team consisted of over 100 people, with 17 at cold resistance level, and pulling a large wagon. The scale was indeed nearly similar to that of a team from the Town City Chamber of Commerce. We are from Jinshan Town, Yin Valley. Please excuse us, Lord. Our trade convoy was hastily assembled by 9 village-level camps in Yin Valley upon hearing that Great Xia Town was open for commerce to all. Firstly, for security, and secondly, hoping to gather a considerable amount of materials and silver to exchange for good items at Hongmen and bring them back. Yin Valley, I see. Upon hearing Han Peng's answer, Liu Yuan nodded immediately. Since the port at Hongmen opened in July, there have been many trade convoys similar to that of Yin Valley, formed by multiple village-level camps, so he wasn't surprised. There are 9 districts in Jinshan Town, and you are from Yin Valley, the one farthest to the west, correct? Upon hearing Liu Yuan's words, Han Peng showed a slight surprise, cupping his fists. I didn't expect the Lord to have an understanding of Jinshan Town. Liu Yuan immediately realized he had been a bit talkative, lightly coughed to make amends. Great Xia is now one of the 9 towns. Naturally, there's an understanding of the other 8 towns. The mountain roads are long, you must have had a hard journey. Please proceed to register. The number of people in the convoy, each person's name, age, and origin, all must be clearly written and will be rechecked upon exiting the city. This Hongmen City, is it really managed so strictly? Han Peng's heart was slightly shocked, but he dared not speak his thoughts out loud. Instead, he turned to call others over, preparing for individual registration, while he was the first to step forward and register. Name, age, place of origin. Han Peng, 81 years old, Jinshan Town, Yin Valley, from Jinyang Village. I advise everyone, it's best not to fabricate. Unless you're confident you'll never be discovered throughout your life, if we find out anyone's information is incorrect, that person will be recorded by Great Xia and will never be allowed into Hongmen City in the future. Just after Han Peng answered the first question, upon hearing Liu Yuan's words, his expression slightly tensed before moving on to answer the second question. Many people in the trailing team showed slightly serious expressions upon hearing Liu Yuan's warning, though some revealed a look of defiance. Yang Ning and Li, who both furrowed their brows but exchanged glances with the already registered Han Peng, and their faces immediately eased. Name, age, place of origin. Finally, it was Yang Ning's turn. He glanced at Han Peng in the distance, then answered, Liu Ning, 32 years old, Jinshan Yin Valley from Jinyang Village. Liu Hu, 32 years old, Jinshan Town Yin Valley from Jinyang Village. Li Hu was right behind him. The person recording at the city gate wrote down the information, noted down their appearances, and directly waved them into the city. Over 100 people quickly finished registering, all following Han Peng into the city. Upon entering the city gate, Yang Ning immediately approached Han Peng, took out a fist-sized silver ingot from his bag, discreetly handed it over with a grateful expression, and whispered, "Thank you, old Han, for your help. A small token from Mr. Liu, please accept it." Han Peng silently accepted the silver ingot, showing no reaction but smiling softly. "A trivial matter, not worth mentioning. You two must have difficulties you'd rather not speak about." Liu Ning and Liu Hu were, of course, not from Yin Valley. These two joined the convoy halfway, when traveling through the Chui Mountain realm. Before entering the city, Han Peng already noticed that these two were likely from Beishuo town. Naturally, he wouldn't offend them carelessly, especially since Liu Ning was so perceptive, as the silver ingot he just received was worth at least 500 taels. "Stop. Stop right there." Having received the money, Han Peng was in a good mood and was about to speak when suddenly interrupted by a loud shout. The area near the city gate was still relatively quiet due to the sparse crowd, so when the shout echoed, everyone immediately looked towards the source of the sound. 3 disheveled figures sprinted from the city center towards the city gate, weapons in hand, expressions extremely frantic, tipping over many vendors and pedestrians along the way, arousing curses from the surroundings and showing signs of chaos. Behind the 3, hundreds of soldiers in golden battle armor were chasing them. Although the soldiers had drawn longbows, crowded by pedestrians on the street, they dared not shoot and continued chasing behind the 3. "What's happening? Stealing? Doesn't seem so, they're empty-handed." "They are all soldiers at cold resistance level. Aren't they from Great Zia's Cloud Dragon Army? 1,000 Forged Thunder QE golden armor, just like the 100 people at the gate, definitely." The people near the city gate, upon seeing the 3 fleeing towards them, had their eyes glimmer. None stepped forward to block, opting for retreat instead. "Make way." Even Han Peng's face turned slightly grim, quickly signaling for the convoy to get out of the way. Han Peng had peak cold resistance cultivation, with basic strength at 30 mained, immediately recognizing those fleeing in panic had abilities above his own, choosing promptly along with others to step aside. Chapter 11:23, Chapter 384, Entering the City Using an Alias, Rulebreakers Part 3. There are Zia army soldiers at the city gate, split up and run. The leader among the 3 people fleeing, upon realizing the Zia army was at the city gate while still several hundred meters away, his face turned grim, and with a furious shout, he directly turned and ran west. The other 2, upon hearing him, also reacted and immediately split up to continue running. Huff. However, the leader hadn't run more than 10 meters to the west when a heavy and fierce shout suddenly echoed from in front of him. A silver double-edged giant axe over 2 meters long suddenly smashed down toward his head from midair. The man reacted quickly. His movements didn't stop as he swiftly angled his sword to deflect it, clearly intending to knock aside the giant axe and continue escaping. Crack! However, he underestimated the power of the axe. Let alone deflect the axe, the longsword couldn't even complete the deflecting motion upon contact. His hand instantly cracked open, and if he hadn't promptly twisted his wrist to disperse the force, the sword would definitely have slipped from his grip. Though the longsword ultimately didn't slip from his grasp, his speed was greatly hindered, and the owner of the double-edged giant axe naturally wouldn't miss such a good opportunity. A burly figure suddenly appeared behind the man. Seizing the moment as the opponent had just dodged the axe and hadn't yet regained his footing, he abruptly charged up his right fist and punched directly towards the man's chest. Bang! In a panic, the man tried to raise his sword to block, but before he could lift it, the fist had already hit him. With a loud bang, he spewed a mouthful of fresh blood, his body flying backward more than 10 meters before landing motionless, alive or dead unknown. With such meager skills, how dare you spy on the ministry building, courting death? The burly youth was Yuan Cheng himself, wearing a maroon robe. After pulling the giant axe from the ground, he let out a cold snort. Who is that? The director of the supervision department of one of the 8 divisions of Great Xia, Lord Yuan Cheng. I've heard Lord Yuan has a Dragon Slayer army at his disposal, with strength equivalent to the defensive army. Just now, that guy had 18 hooves worth of power but couldn't withstand a single move. Is Director Yuan really that strong? I've heard from others that Director Yuan's power is at least over 30 hooves. Yes. At the same time that many recognized Yuan Cheng, suddenly, loud noises interrupted the crowd's discussions from 2 other directions. In less than 10 breaths, 2 people slowly emerged from where the sounds came from, each holding one of the 2 who had split up and ran. The 2 appeared miserable. The one on the left's brow was pierced, already dead. The right one's left shoulder was shredded, breathing laboriously, likely half dead even if not already gone. Wasn't the man wielding a knife the commander at the city gate just now? What commander? That's Liu Yuan, the vice commander of the Cloud Dragon Army. Cloud Dragon Army. Is it the one that slaughtered 2,000 defensive army troops at Chui Mountain and captured 200 cold resistance-level soldiers alive? Nonsense except for Great Xia. Who else dares use this designation? That explains the golden armored soldiers at the gate just now, all possessing cold resistance-level cultivation. Turns out they're Cloud Dragon Army soldiers. And what about the one on the right? I don't know about him, but judging by the attire, this person must hold a position in Great Xia similar to Director Yuan. As Liu Yuan's identity was revealed, the crowd immediately looked curiously towards the person on the right. With Hongmen opening the port in July, many circumstances in Great Xia gradually spread, but Xia people rarely acted in the 8 towns, so besides Lord Xia Hong, people only knew a few notorious figures such as Minister Xia Chuan, director of the military department Yu Wendao, and other directors of the 8 departments who had appeared in Hongmen City. The person on the right hadn't appeared in Hongmen City before, but judging by his clothes, was evidently another important figure from Great Xia. Ningzi, why have you returned from bashing? Yuan Cheng, seeing the person on the right, immediately displayed a look of delight. The person turned out to be Su Ning. Since being appointed as deputy director of the supervision department, Su Ning had been stationed in Bashing City alongside Yu Wendao for several months, without returning. Unexpectedly, he was in Hongmen tonight. Greetings, Vice Director Su. Su Ning first handed over the half-dead fugitive he held to the Cloud Dragon Army soldier saluting him, then looked at Yuan Cheng, smilingly saying, "Tonight, I'm here to bring back 3 people to meet the minister." Yuan Cheng was stunned, immediately turned to look toward the gate. At the city gate indeed, 3 middle-aged men were slowly walking in. Seeing their appearance, Yuan Cheng instantly understood and didn't question Su Ning further, instead signaling the Cloud Dragon Army soldier to take those 3 back, then turned to the crowd, a trace of dominance in his eyebrows, and spoke in a heavy tone. Everyone should have been told by the city gate commander what rules to follow upon entering Hongmen City. Allow me to add, once in the city, you must abide by the rules. As long as you sincerely come for trade, no matter your background or strength, Great Xia welcomes you wholeheartedly. But if you harbor ill intent, you better have significant power, or your fate will be like those 3. The crowd shuddered slightly, with the tragic fate of the 3 people still fresh in their minds. Yuan Cheng's words naturally carried a heavy deterrent. After finishing his speech, Yuan Cheng tyrannically scanned a circle around the crowd. It was during this scan that he clearly noticed something. His pupils suddenly contracted, then turned around without a word, a playful smile emerging at the corner of his mouth as he led Su Ning towards the ministry building. Chapter 1124. Chapter 387. The 2 who refused to give up, the Xiang family's tragedy and the Bashing population, Yuan Cheng's teasing. Vice Director Su, was that person just now also a vice director? It's estimated that his strength is around 30 brushes. This makes him the 8th top expert above 30 brushes in Great Xia after Xia Chuan, Yu Wendao, Yuan Cheng, Qiu Peng, Yue Feng, Lin Kai, and Xi Ping. How many more experts does Great Xia have? The key is that this Lord Su isn't very old either. His talent is astonishing. There must be more. We heard that very few people have actually been to the Great Xia town, only some core high-ups from the 8 towns. They definitely know more than we do. Just look at the 8 towns' attitude towards Great Xia. That's right, Great Xia openly trades with our village-level camps, clearly extracting the lifeblood of the 8 towns. The trade port has been open for more than 2 months now, and the 8 towns don't dare to take any action. Doesn't that say something? These 8 people are surely just the tip of the iceberg for Great Xia's town. I reckon Great Xia's strength far exceeds our imagination. The basic strength of the earth-digging realm, from the initial breakthrough at 10,000 pounds to the earth-digging realm limit, excluding some extreme cases, shows that different cultivation progresses in the earth-digging realm have a strength span of at most 100,000 pounds. Unlike the earth-digging realm, the basic strength of the cold resistance level is measured in brushes, with one brush equating to 100,000 pounds. Adding the restriction of battle body talent, the strength span at this stage is massive. For instance, one brush versus 50 brushes, although both are called cold resistance level, their power difference is like a vast chasm. Over at the Mo 9 towns, the cold resistance level is typically divided into 3 ranks based on strength. Over 8 brushes are called adept, over 24 brushes are called experts, and over 30 brushes are deemed top experts. Anyone with a bit of knowledge about war bodies quickly understands the reasoning behind this classification. Without using substances to boost further, the maximum strength of an ordinary cold resistance level is barely 8 brushes. Being able to boost strength over 24 brushes means one can rival the peak of cold resistance level with a top-grade battle body. Boosting strength to over 30 brushes means one can dominate the cold resistance level stage, regardless of war body talent. In the 8 towns, the number of cold resistance levels with a strength over 30 brushes can practically be counted, with each town averaging out to about a dozen. Great Xia only sprang into prominence in Mo Mountain this April, and now there are already 8 of them. Who knows how many more are in their town? Hence, the terror on everyone's face at this moment is understandable. While everyone discussed, Yuan Cheng and Su Ning had already walked away with the Cloud Jiao army soldiers. Yang Ning and Li Hu stood facing each other, their pupils filled with shock and horror. It's him. Although his clothing and demeanor have completely changed, I can confirm that 9 years ago, among the 6 people Xia Hong brought to Rojal camp, was that burly young man we just saw. Li Hu whispered confidently beside Yang Ning. Yang Ning didn't reply, but the tumult in his pupils showed that he was even more certain of this conclusion than Li Hu was. 9 years isn't exactly a long time. Moreover, 9 years ago, their risk-taking journey across the north bank of the Heng River to map Redwood Ridge with the help of Chui Mountain Town was memorable, so both of them remembered it well. If Li Hu could recognize Yuan Cheng, then so could he. Over 30 brushes, how is that possible? How could it be? 9 years ago, Xia Hong himself was only in the earth-digging realm, and the 6 he brought were all just in the logging realm. It's only been 9 years. Yang Ning was almost dazed at this point. Despite the mental preparation before coming this time, confirming that the famous Great Xia across the 9 towns now was the small camp they encountered at Redwood Ridge 9 years ago shocked him deeply, even made him start doubting himself. This year he's 33, with a peak cold resistance level cultivation and strength of 21 brushes, definitely the standout among his peers in Beishuo. But compared to that Yuan Cheng, what does he amount to? The key is, Yuan Cheng was merely one of the 6 young men Xia Hong took from the Great Xia camp to Rojal camp 9 years ago. The other 5 and Xia Hong. Thinking of the rumors about Great Xia Lord Xia Hong, Yang Ning couldn't help but tremble. It's a deceitful monster, it must be a deceitful monster. No normal camp can develop this quickly. Brother, didn't we come this time to confirm this? Now that we have the answer, we should be happy. Hearing Li Hu's words, Yang Ning looked at him and saw that his face, besides horror, also had a tinge of fear. After pondering for a moment, he immediately understood what Li Hu feared. 9 years ago, due to the issue of the ownership of the wooden puppet monster, Li Hu nearly killed one of Xia Hong's subordinates. Thinking of this, Yang Ning's brow immediately furrowed. Not just Li Hu, he too wanted to take that subordinate of Xia Hong to Beishuo City back then, but later was compelled to retreat with Li Hu under the pressure from the people of Redwood Ridge. It's fine that Yuan Cheng didn't recognize us just now. Since we've infiltrated using fake identities, Let's gather all the information we can and bring back some intel. Lord Town Chief will definitely be pleased. At his words, Li Hu's eyes lit up immediately, and he nodded vigorously. Both he and Yang Ning are commanders in the Beishuo Town Defense Army, so they're privy to a lot of information. Great Xia has been too prominent recently, and its series of actions like opening ports for trade seriously damage the interests of various towns. Currently, except for Mayan and Jiangxia, the other 6 towns are all very hostile towards Great Xia, with the northern 3 towns seeing Great Xia as a thorn in the side. Chapter 1125. Chapter 387. The two unwilling to give up, the Xiang family's miserable plight in Bashing's population. Yuan Cheng sells the mystery, too. Moreover, as the reputation of Great Xia's Mo first town spread, another rumor is also starting to circulate in the 8 towns. The content of the rumor is that Xia Hong has replaced Yang Zhen of Beishuo, becoming the strongest in the 9 towns at the southern foot of Mo Mountain. It's unclear how the other 7 towns reacted, but the response from Beishuo Town was significant. The name of the great Lord Yang Zhen cannot be sullied. When this rumor flowed into Beishuo City in mid-July, Town Chief Yang Fa was enraged and immediately executed more than a dozen key spreaders, then strictly ordered everyone in the city not to spread the message further. Yang Ning, upon first hearing the rumor from the soldiers in the camp, also reacted violently, almost resorting to murder, but eventually, for the soldiers' idle chatting, only punished him with 100 lashes, leaving him severely injured. Now, the core members of Beishuo are extremely hostile toward Great Xia, including Yang Ning and Li Hu. The two traveled thousands of miles to Hongmen to investigate Great Xia, partly to resolve their doubts and partly to alleviate the worries of the Lord and Town Chief. The 3 people just followed Vice Director Su into the city. I know the one in the middle, named Xiang Tianyang, and the 2 on the sides look similar to him, likely also members of the Xiang family. Having decided to stay in Hongmen to gather information, Yang Ning put aside other thoughts and recalled the trio brought into the city by Su Ning, his eyes immediately darkening. At the end of April's Hongmen banquet, Great Xia first snatched the Jiuchu camp from our Beishuo, then took Bashing City from Chui Mountain Town, and now they invite members of the Xiang family over, likely because of the issue of the more than 100,000 people in Bashing City refusing to migrate. Li Hu nodded immediately upon hearing this. He had also heard of the Bashing City's people unwilling to migrate. The people from Yin Valley will likely stay in Hongmen for a few days. During these days, we should stick with Han Peng and see if, besides Yuan Cheng, we can spot other familiar faces. Agreed. Li Hu immediately nodded in agreement. 9 years ago, Xia Hong brought 6 people to the Rojal camp with logging machines. Confirming just Yuan Cheng's identity is not enough. If they can verify a few more familiar faces, it will be more reassuring. While the 2 quietly discussed, they remained within Han Peng's group. They did not notice Han Peng at the front of the group, whose gaze swept toward them, with a hint of darkness in his eyes. Hongmen City, Ministry Building, top floor main hall. Xiang Tianyang led his 2 clan brothers, Xiang Tianqing and Xiang Tianyu, following behind a golden armored soldier, slowly entering the main hall, all 3 of them with unusually somber expressions, unsure of their thoughts. Gentlemen, my minister is busy with other matters and will be able to meet you after a while. Please wait patiently for a moment. The soldier who led them extended his hands, explaining, before swiftly exiting the hall. The trio stood quietly in the main hall for a while without speaking. Finally, it was Xiang Tianqing on the left who couldn't hold back any longer and spoke first. Brother, 4th brother, regardless of Great Xia's strength, there is absolutely no way they'll get a Xiang family to move away from Bashing. Xiang Tianqing, just over 40, is the youngest among them, and with a markedly impulsive temper, he expressed his stance first and then continued sternly. Not only a Xiang family, but also the Zhang family, Wang family. More than a dozen large and small families in the city, along with over 60,000 others who have lived in Bashing for generations. A single word from Great Xia expecting all of us, over 100,000 people, to move is unreasonable. Xiang Tianyang and Xiang Tianyu instinctively wanted to respond, but the realization dawned on them, causing them to pause and not speak. Bashing City's original population was over 800,000, dwindling relentlessly due to the battle against Daju Temple earlier in the year, prompting the relocation of all village-level camps into the town, causing the population to suddenly jump to over 1,500,000. Later, the 5 great masters of Daju Temple conjured that 5-headed mysterious face Maitreya, claiming 1/3 of the town's residents' lives. So now Bashing City's population remained slightly over 1 million. The fall of Daju Temple did not herald victory for Bashing City. Lord Xiang Fuhai's body was never found. Army Chief Xiang Fan Yun and Town Chief Xiang Tianlin both died in battle, with the high-level members decimated, and countless Xiang family members were killed or injured. Only over 500 cold resistance-level individuals in Bashing Town survived, about 1/6 of the pre-war number. Post-war Bashing City could only watch helplessly as the 6 towns stripped their treasury bare, divided all of Bashing's territory, and even Bashing City, where they resided, was lastly allocated to Chui Mountain Town. But not even a day passed before they received news of Bashing City changing hands to Great Xia. Despite the inner shock and sorrow, truth be told, most people in Bashing City were actually quite relieved, especially knowing Xia Hong was the one responsible for dealing with the 5-headed mysterious face Maitreya, saving the people of Bashing City. There was hardly any further resistance in their hearts. In early May, Dragon Martial Army stationed at Bashing City faced no resistance, indicative of their unobjectionable mentality. However, by mid-May, when Great Xia dispatched Deputy Director Su Ning to oversee Bashing, proposing the relocation of over 100,000 to Xia City, the resistance within their hearts immediately emerged. Over 500 at cold resistance level, along with thousands at the earth-digging realm, and all residents of Bashing City, nearly everyone refused. Chapter 1126, Chapter 387, The Two Who Refused to Give Up, The Xiang Family's Tragedy and Bashing's Population, Yuan Cheng Keeps Them Guessing Part 3. They were living well in Bashing City. How could they possibly be willing to move elsewhere? No matter how Su Ning and the people from Great Xia described Xia City as wonderful, not a single person agreed. Dozens of families in the city, together with 500 cold resistance-level individuals, as well as all those in the earth-digging realm banded together. No matter how Great Xia tried to persuade them, they simply did not want to move. Even when Great Xia had them send representatives to Xia City to visit, although some were successfully relocated, they were mostly people from the village-level camps from before. The vast majority of Bashing's original inhabitants remained unmoved. Now those left in Bashing City are estimated to be slightly over 900,000. After dragging on for 4 months, Great Xia's patience should have run its course. At this moment this thought emerged in Xiang Tianyang's heart, and he sighed slightly. This time he came to Hongmen, invited by Minister Xia Chuan. Great Xia's patience was exhausted and was preparing to forcibly compel them to migrate. Other than this, he could not think of any other reason for Xia Chuan himself to invite him to Hongmen. Xiang Tianyang, among the younger generation of the Xiang family, did not stand out in talent or cultivation. At over 60 years old, he only had a cultivation of 28 strands, which in the past in Bashing City was nothing. But now he can represent the entire Xiang family, and even with 2 of his brothers, he could represent over 1 million people in Bashing City in negotiations with Great Xia. In the past, this was an honor he could not dream of achieving. This kind of honor, if possible, Xiang Tianyang would rather never have it fall upon him in this lifetime. Tanking, an arm can't wrestle with a thigh. Killing, coercion, threats. Great Xia has countless ways to deal with us that they haven't used force up till now is them giving us room to maneuver but. Brother, I know you speak reasonably but regardless, I've lived in Bashing for decades. Every blade of grass, every brick and tile is what my Xiang family has led the people of Bashing to accumulate, step by step across generations. Great Xia, by what right, with what qualifications can make us move away? Silent till now, Xiang Tianyu finally couldn't hold back, nodded and responded in a solemn voice. The destruction of Bashing is a settled matter. We also acknowledge the reality of becoming a part of Great Xia in the future, but Great Xia shouldn't be forcing us to leave Bashing. I certainly know Xia City is excellent. From the various cultivation resources taken out by the Bashing Camp Supply Department you can tell. Yet even so in my heart, it does not compare to Bashing. Seeing the usually aloof Xiang Tianyu utter such words, Xiang Tianyang shook his head, sighed, and fell into contemplation. In essence it's just 4 words, hard to part with homeland. Once a person gets accustomed to an environment, it's really hard for them to willingly move somewhere else. The hardships and dangers of long-distance migration, adapting to and integrating into a new environment, the change in lifestyle, the feeling of being separated. Reasons are varied, but overall, the situation is stuck here now. The last over 900,000 people in Bashing City, no matter what, just refuse to move. The words of Xiang Tianyu and Xiang Tianqing essentially represent everyone's attitude. Even though Xiang Tianyang knows in his heart that Great Xia is yielding to them, he dares not defy everyone's will in any case. Well, since both of you have such determination, I won't say any more. No matter what conditions the minister proposes later, we won't agree to migrate not for ourselves, but for those over 900,000. Are you Tianyang? Before Xiang Tianyang could finish speaking, he was interrupted by an elderly, weak-sounding voice. Upon hearing this voice, both he and the other two shuddered instantly, their expressions suddenly becoming agitated. The three swiftly turned their heads toward the region from which the sound originated, seeing the elderly figure slowly emerge from a small compartment behind the main seat. Their bodies began to tremble violently. Without thinking, they rushed over and knelt before that person. "Uncle, you're alive." Tianqing pays respect to the Lord. Tianyu pays respect to the Lord. It's wonderful the Lord is still alive. The one walking out from the compartment was actually Lord of Bashing, Xiang Fuhai. Although Xiang Fuhai's face was pale and he appeared clearly weak at this moment, Xiang Tianyang and the others knelt on the ground, still feeling indescribable excitement. After raising his head, Xiang Tianyang quickly thought of something, immediately burst into tears, crying aloud towards Xiang Fuhai. "Uncle, they're dead, all of them are dead. In the Bashing battle, my Xiang family had over 600 casualties. The other dozen families were about the same. Over 80% of cold resistance level individuals were fallen in battle. Over 70,000 earth-digging realm died. The treasury was emptied by the 6 towns, and the territory was carved up." Originally thought Xiang Fuhai had perished, only his remains couldn't be found. Irresistible joy upon unexpectedly finding him alive at this moment. Xiang Tianyang couldn't help but pour out all the grievances and anguish accumulated in his heart over the past 4 months. A 60-year-old man knelt on the ground, crying and shedding tears without any restraint, constantly recounting to Xiang Fuhai the experiences after Bashing's downfall, showing none of the calm demeanor of an elder. Beside him, Xiang Tianqing and Xiang Tianyu were likewise moved by Xiang Tianyang's words, tears uncontrollably welled in their eyes. Over 1.5 million people, a third dead. To mow 8 towns, including Great Xia, it's just a simple sentence, but the pain it brought to Bashing people may never be erased in their lifetime. Because those who died were all their family members. Chapter 1127, Chapter 387, the two who refused to give up, the Xiang family's tragedy and Bashing's population, Yuan Cheng drops hints 4. The Xiang family, the main defensive force in the Battle of Bashing, along with those core high-ranking families, goes without mention. The Xiang family's rise began with Xiang Fuhai's grandfather's generation, flourished under his father's generation, and reached its peak under Xiang Fuhai, deeply rooted in Bashing for over 70 years and continuing to this day, with nearly 700 clansmen in total, over 600 of whom perished in the Battle of Bashing, nearly annihilated. Even for 2 people, Xiang Fuhai was in an even worse state. In fact, from the moment he saw that the visitor was Xiang Tianyang, Xiang Fuhai's heart had already received a heavy blow. Xiang Tianyang, of the 20-plus Tianzi generation, was of average talent. His being the representative from Bashing to Hongmen proved that the battle at the end of April had wiped out not only his Xiang family, but nearly all of Bashing's elite at the cold resistance level. Xiang Fuhai's face was already pale, his condition extremely weak, and upon hearing Xiang Tianyang's words, his expression was filled with indescribable pain, and his body wobbled precariously. "Uncle, what's wrong?" Witnessing this, the trio with Xiang Tianyang immediately rose to support him, their faces full of concern. Xiang Fuhai closed his eyes to regulate his breath for a moment, waiting for his body to recover before opening his eyes to look at the 3 nephews in front of him. His expression was painfully solemn, his voice trembling as he asked, "How many people survived in the family? Are Wenchen, Wendao, Wenhong, and Wenlong present? How many in the Wen and Yu generations survived?" The Tianzi generation was Xiang Fuhai's children and nephews, and he and his brother Xiang Fuhai's descendants were surely all dead. He could only ask how many of the 4 direct grandsons and the younger Yu generation great-grandsons survived. Wenchen, Wendao, Wenhang and Wenlong were not only direct grandsons of their brothers, but also the most talented in the Wen generation, all only in their 40s this year with strength levels above 20, the latter three having top-level combat body qualification, and his elder grandson Xiang Wenchen, having top-grade battle body qualification, was always most valued by him. At the mention of this question, Xiang Tianyang and the three others' faces simultaneously displayed abundant grief. As they looked at their uncle's shaky body, none of them spoke. Just tell me directly, this old man has lived more than 140 years, seen all manner of storms, and can withstand this trivial matter. Upon hearing this, Xiang Tianyang's expression stagnated as he raised his head to look at Xiang Fuhai's resolute demeanor, ultimately crying as he responded, Wendao, Wenhang, and Wenlong all died in battle at the city gate that night. Wenchen originally escaped by luck, but the next day the lords of the 6 towns forcibly divided the Bashing treasury. Wenchen couldn't bear it and went forward to argue with them, his words accidentally angering Yang Zhen, and Beishuo town chief Yang Fa personally took action. Continue, what did Yang Fa do to Tian? Seeing Xiang Tianyang hesitating to speak, Xiang Fuai's heart trembled slightly, clenching his fists as he gestured for him to continue. Xiang Tianyang's eyes revealed a trace of deep pain as he continued. Yang Zhen and Yang Fa should have realized the superior talent of Wenchen. Yang Fa directly took action and severed both of Wenchen's arms. On puff. Xiang Fuhai could no longer suppress the anger in his chest, letting out a long roar, and in a fit of rage suddenly spat out a mouthful of fresh blood, his face pale, his body collapsing. Uncle! Lord! Xiang Tianyang and the others had been supporting Xiang Fuhai all along, naturally not letting him fall, hastening to hold him up strongly. Yang Zhen and Yang Fa, one day, if I fail to slaughter your Yang family descendants, this old man swears to not be human. Shangyuan Yang, Qin Feng, forcing Bashing to fight to the death with Daju Temple. As long as I live, Jin Mountain and Wuchuan Town shall not have ease. Additionally, Chui Mountain, Dragon Valley, Yonk are not good either. As long as I live, I will clash with the 6 towns ceaselessly. Xiang Fuhai's pupils were filled with extreme coldness. These words seemed squeezed from between gritted teeth, full of rage and hatred. However, careful observation would reveal that as he spoke, he inadvertently glanced at the side wing of the main hall. Sir, Xiang Fuhai is expressing loyalty to our great Zia. In the quiet chamber at the side wing of the main hall, Qiu Peng teased Zia Chuan with a laugh. He is still in a semi-disabled state, counting on Cheng Feng and the alchemy workshop to help him recover his Xianyang level cultivation. Expressing a bit of loyalty is normal. Zia Chuan remained silent, but Yuan Cheng answered with a smile. Su Ning, who had just personally brought Xiang Tiancheng and the others to Hongmen City, also sat below. Hearing Yuan Cheng's words, he laughed. It's true they're asking us for help, but Beishuo's actions are indeed excessive. Bashing's Tianzi generation experts have nearly all fallen, and Xiang Wenchen was almost the only one left most likely to break through to Xianyang. Yang Fa severing his arms was clearly aimed at cutting off the Xiang family's roots. Xiang Fuhai's anger is understandable. 7 parts true, 3 parts false. Zia Chuan, seated at the head, finally spoke, characterizing Xiang Fuhai's earlier words before smiling and continuing. The northern 3 towns united to coerce Xiang Fuhai, forcing him to lead Bashing against Daju Temple in a death battle, was the fundamental reason for Bashing's downfall. Surely Xiang Fuhai holds grudges. Even without Xiang Wenchen's incident, he and the 3 towns are locked in a life-and-death struggle. Regarding Chui Mountain, Dragon Valley, and Yonk Town, since they participated in dividing Bashing's treasury and territory, being resented is only natural. Xiang Fuhai still has some acumen. He should have guessed Great Zia's intention to save him, so he deliberately said those confrontational words to increase the value of himself and the Xiang's descendants. Chapter 1128, Chapter 387, The 2 Relentless Men, the Xiang family's tragedy and Bashing's population. Yuan Cheng sells the mystery 5. Qiu Peng lowered his head in thought for a moment, then quickly reacted and nodded, saying with a smile, now that he has lost his Xianyang level cultivation, the Xiang family is down to just a few stragglers. This is indeed the only way to enhance his value. After speaking, Qiu Peng remembered something and asked Zia Chuan in a low voice, Sir, if Cheng Feng manages to develop the Dan medicine that helps him recover his cultivation, would we really help him with it? Hearing this question, Zia Chuan's brows furrowed slightly, But he quickly thought of something, his brows relaxed, and he smiled. That would depend on his subsequent performance with those people from Bashing. Upon hearing Xia Chuan's words, the faces of Qiu Peng and the others immediately lit up with smiles. Finally, the matter of Bashing migration can be resolved smoothly. Su Ning let out a sigh of relief. He had been stationed at Bashing since early May, and over the past 4 months, the most troublesome issue had been the population migration. Just as Xiang Tianyang had guessed, if Great Xia truly wanted to forcibly migrate those over 1 million people, there were indeed many ways to achieve it. The problem was that Xia Hong had already instructed in advance that everyone must be willing to migrate, thus many methods could not be used. Compared to the camps previously annexed by Great Xia, Bashing is indeed different. With a population of over 1 million, they have always identified as Bashing people for generations, making it extremely difficult to integrate them into Great Xia. Luckily, the Lord had foresight and left a brilliant chess move with Xiang Fuhai. Su Ning couldn't help but sigh, while Xia Chuan, Qiu Peng, and Lu Yang all nodded in agreement, showing a trace of admiration on their faces. In retrospect, when Xia Hong saved Xiang Fuhai at Bashing back then, he must have anticipated today's events. This level of strategy is indeed admirable. By the way, Minister, 2 very interesting people have infiltrated Hongmen. You might be interested. Lu Yang suddenly recalled something and spoke with a smile to Xia Chuan. Infiltrated Hongmen, who are they? Xia Chuan and the others immediately looked at him with curiosity. Just as Su Ning was bringing Xiang Tianyang and the others into the city, a merchant caravan was also entering the city. The caravan was jointly set up by the 9 village-level camps of Jinshan Town Yin Valley, and the leader of that group is named Han Peng. Lu Yang did not directly name the 2 individuals, but first mentioned the caravan entering the city today, emphasizing Han Peng's name with deliberate emphasis. Han Peng from Yin Valley. Upon hearing Han Peng's name, Xia Chuan looked slightly puzzled, pondered briefly, then quickly recalled something, his eyes flashing. He's on the list brought back by Han Feng from Jinshan Town in August, right? That's right, this person, Han Peng, is the leader of Jinshan Village, Yin Valley. Qiu Peng recognized the name immediately, and seeing Su Ning looking puzzled, he quickly explained, "Do you remember Han Feng?" Su Ning furrowed his brow slightly but quickly recalled, asking, "The son of Han Jiulai who fled from Hankyang camp 6 years ago." Qiu Peng nodded and said, "Exactly, 6 years ago he escaped through a secret path, accidentally joining Guyan village in Jinshan Town, where he even became the deputy leader. At the end of last year, when 7 towns mobilized people to support Jiangxia, he happened to be among them and ran into Lu Yang. The Lord's made Chief Steward Han Yue and Deputy Han Shuang, surprisingly, were his 2 sisters. Last year at the end of the year, he visited Xia City once, and at the beginning of last month, he came with his wife and children to join Great Xia, bringing some intel from Jinshan Town along with a list for us." Su Ning soon understood the ins and outs of Han Feng joining Great Xia, and then he curiously asked, "What list?" An intriguing list. Han Feng spent 6 years in Guyan village and got to know quite a few from surrounding camps. He discovered 5 people whose cultivation growth was suspiciously abnormal. Besides, they were extremely keen on gathering information about various towns, even being willing to spend heavy sums. Han Feng suspected they had significant problems. Thus, he informed us of their names and situations, and Han Peng, leader of Jinshan village, was one of them. Outside the 9 towns. Su Ning lowered his head and pondered for a moment, immediately understanding, and looked up at Xia Chuan with surprise. Xia Chuan did not respond, but showed an obscure look of heaviness in his eyes. While Lu Yang then spoke again with a smile. "Certainly, Han Peng will pique your interest, but today I'm not talking about him, but the other 2. Don't keep us in suspense, just tell us the names." Seeing Lu Yang appear smug, Xia Chuan couldn't help but urge him to directly reveal the names. Lu Yang chuckled and finally spoke. "Yang Ning Li Hu." Upon hearing these 2 names, Qiu Peng and Su Ning immediately stood up. "It's those 2 bastards. They've finally arrived. When Lu Yang brought back news a few years ago, I almost couldn't resist heading to Beishuo to take them down. Now they've come right to our doorstep." Chapter 1129. Chapter 388. 8 Towns Scouts and Spies. Xia Chuan's bearing, news from the outer realm. Lu Yang led his men to clear the cold jade secret tunnel and heard news from Beishuo again. This happened in August of the 3rd year of De Xia, which is exactly 5 years ago. During these 5 years, Liu Yang and his people established a base in East Ridge, relying on Great Xia to either control or infiltrate Baining Mountain and the entire Jingxi district, creating not insignificant achievements. However, to avoid alerting the higher-ups in Beishuo and to ensure the absolute security of the Cold Jade secret tunnel, Liu Yang maintained a respectful distance from Beishuo City, always being extremely cautious even in intelligence gathering. Yet even so, within those 5 years, through indirect inquiries, Liu Yang gained a clear understanding of much of the situation inside Beishuo City. Information about Yang Ning and Li Hu was already gathered and sent back to Xia City by September of the 6th year of De Xia. From their backgrounds and ages to their approximate cultivation and strength, and even their positions in Beishuo City, everything was clear to Xia Chuan and the others. Qiu Peng reacted strongly because he was one of the witnesses back then. Yang and Li's arrogant demeanor at Redwood Ridge, their insolence towards Lord Xia Hong, their severe wounding of Xia Chuan, and almost taking him away from Redwood Ridge, all these details are vividly remembered by him. People generally remember deeply the humiliation suffered during their humble beginnings, and Qiu Peng is no exception. His impression of Yang and Li is exceptionally profound. When Liu Yang sent back their information last year, he indeed suggested he go to Beishuo City himself to kill them. But at that time, his strength was still not enough. Plus, both Xia Hong and Xia Chuan stopped him, so he had to abandon the idea. Notably, 9 years ago on the night the wooden puppet monster was slaughtered in Twin Dragon Valley, Su Ning was absent because his right eye was blinded by a demon sheep. Even though he wasn't present, he was later informed about everything that happened that night by Yuan Cheng and others after they returned to the camp. Therefore, he knew all about how Xia Chuan almost died at Li Hu's hands, including how he almost got taken to Beishuo City by Yang Ning and the others. Considering Xia Hong and Xia Chuan's status in his eyes, the actions of Yang and Li back then were enough for him to sentence them to death. Exhibiting the same reaction as Qiu Peng was perfectly normal. No need to get so worked up, have a seat first. Unlike the others, Xia Chuan was unusually calm upon hearing the news. There wasn't even the slightest ripple on his face. He simply gestured for the two to sit down with a smile, then turned to Yuan Cheng and asked, "Did they sneak in with Han Peng using fake identities?" Yuan Cheng nodded and responded, "They used identities from Jinyang Village, even assuming simple pseudonyms directly named as Liu Ning and Liu Hu. When I saw their names and appearances, I was already 80% certain. Just now, I went to the Guardian Department to check all cold resistance level information from the 9 villages in the Yin Valley area and found no matching details for them, which confirmed it. Then it can definitely be concluded that it's those two." Qiu Peng immediately picked up the conversation, nodding emphatically. Before entering Hongmen City, everyone had to register their personal information strictly, not just for easy management within the city but more importantly, so that the Guardian Department could verify the register's real identity based on this data. Liu Yang had been in Beishuo for 5 years, and with spies dispatched to various towns by Xia City last October who had begun taking effect. While accessing the core situations in 8 towns might be challenging, they had no difficulty grasping all basic data about village-level camps within the 8-town territories. They knew clearly how many districts each town governed, how many villages in each district, how many cold resistance-level individuals in those villages, and even details of some individual strength. As the intelligence network became increasingly perfected, Xia City had long been well informed. Since Great Xia announced the opening of the Hongmen port 2 months ago in July, people have been coming from various towns endlessly, already exceeding 20,000. While the vast majority came openly and honestly for trade with Great Xia using their real identities, a small portion harbored ill intentions and sneaked in using fake identities. Yuan Cheng had been stationed at Hongmen for these 2 months, relying on Great Xia's dense intelligence network across the 8 towns and personally leading the Hongmen Guardian Department. He had already uncovered over 300 individuals who snuck in using fake identities, a testament to his rich experience. Recognizing Yang Ning and Li Hu at a glance today was partly due to this experience, undoubtedly. I remember the 2 of them were commanders of Beishuo Town Defense Army, unrelated to the Chamber of Commerce. What are they doing in Hongmen? Hearing Xia Chuan's question, Yuan Cheng immediately responded, "What else could it be? Surely, like the others before them, sent by Beishuo Town as spies to probe our Great Xia's strengths and weaknesses." Xia Chuan didn't respond verbally, just slightly shaking his head. Qiu Peng, having calmed down by now, thought for a moment before also shaking his head and saying to Yuan Cheng, "What's the point of sending people to Hongmen City to probe Great Zia's strengths and weaknesses? Hongmen is already open to the 8 towns, no need for a fake identity to enter." Yuan Cheng immediately picked up on this, with a slight change in his expression. Hongmen City is not only a trade port in the northern gateway, but also a showcase of Great Zia's strength to the outside world, making its position crucial. It houses not just the entire 8,000-strong forces, including the Cloud Dragon Army and Dragon Slayer, but also Zia Chuan, Yuan Cheng, and other high-ranking officials of Great Zia sitting in presence. Yet no matter how important, at the end of the day, it's just one of Great Zia's outposts. Trying to understand Great Zia's strengths and weaknesses through Hongmen is simply unrealistic. Chapter 1130, Chapter 388, 8 Towns Scouts and Spies, Zia Chuan's Bearing, Outer Realm News Part 2. If we want to truly investigate the specifics of Great Zia, the only way is to go to Zia City. The 8 towns must understand this principle. In fact, the 8 towns have indeed done so. Ever since the Hongmen banquet in April ended, their probing of Zia City has almost never stopped. In the past 4 months, Director Li of the prison department and his team have arrested over 100 cold resistance-level spies from the 8 towns on the outskirts of Zia City. Jiangxia and Mayan sent only one batch, which we released. After the minister personally sent a warning letter, the 2 towns didn't dare to send anyone else. As for the remaining 6 towns, they are truly relentless. They send one wave of spies after another, like it's never-ending. Recently, the prison department hasn't caught any spies. I guess it's because those people have now figured out the safe distance from Zia City. Qiu Peng's words were amusing, and Zia Chuan and the other 2 immediately showed smiles on their faces. The Lord's ancestral spirit mother and child steel is indeed amazing. Within 50 kilometers of Zia City, any intruder will be monitored immediately. Those spies from the 8 towns can't even get close to Zia City, let alone sneak in to investigate. It's simply impossible. Qiu Peng, having frequently traveled between Zia City and Hongmen lately, knew a lot about the family situation. Mentioning the ancestral spirit mother and child steel filled his face with admiration, but he thought of something and continued with a slightly somber expression. The only pity is that this mother and child steel cannot be used to identify inside agents in the city. With a large population sometimes moving into Zia City, it's hard to guarantee that there aren't inside agents arranged by the 8 towns mixed in with the other people. Yuan Cheng and Su Ning nodded at these words, their expressions slightly sinking. The ancestral spirit mother and child steel's monitoring of a 50-kilometer radius around Zia City only targets non-Great Zia camp foreign life forms. This means that people from other camps, as long as they successfully join Great Zia, are not monitored by it. As long as the 8 towns are smart enough, they can mix people into some normal camps beforehand, then take advantage of Great Zia's expansion to purportedly become a part of Great Zia and infiltrate Zia City. It's not a very difficult thing to do. This problem is essentially unsolvable. They can't hope that Lord Zia Hong will bring out another divine object that can distinguish whether someone truly intends to join Great Zia, can they? Thinking of this, the 3 suddenly looked up, only to find that Zia Chuan, sitting at the main seat, was smiling, and their faces immediately lit up with hope. "I know what you're thinking. About the issue of insiders from the 6 towns, I sought advice from the Lord at the beginning of June. He said that as the population of Zia City continues to grow, it's inevitable for insiders from other camps to mix in. Only by strengthening defenses can we manage. Completely eliminating them isn't possible. However, compared to other camps, we at Great Zia truly have a way to distinguish insiders." At this point, Zia Chuan paused, closed his eyes, his body shuddered slightly, and 3 vertical blood-red cloud patterns emerged between his brows. "It's the sacred pattern." Seeing Zia Chuan reveal the Great Zia sacred pattern, Qiu Peng and the others' eyes immediately lit up, and they all had a suspicion in their hearts. Zia Chuan then pointed at the sacred pattern and continued, "You all should have the sacred pattern bloodline now. The Lord once said that only those who sincerely join Great Zia, undergo transformation in the Holy Tripod for more than half a year, can obtain the latent Great Zia sacred pattern bloodline." At this, Zia Chuan didn't continue, because Qiu Peng and the others were visibly excited, clearly understanding the implication. Su Ning, in his excitement, couldn't help but speak out. In the Zia Lie System chapter, the Lord stated that all Zia people have an inherent sacred pattern bloodline. To awaken the bloodline and grow the sacred pattern, there are only two ways. One is through innate bloodline talent. The earlier it appears, the higher the talent, like the minister's two young sons. The other is through cultivation, breaking through to the cold resistance level, and the bloodline will automatically become manifest, and the sacred pattern will surely appear between the brows. Hearing Su Ning mention the two young sons of the minister, Qiu Peng and Yuan Cheng couldn't help but turn their heads to look at Zia Chuan, nodding with admiration. Qiu Peng has 3 children, with the most gifted eldest son, Qiu Hong, only developing the sacred pattern at 5. Yuan Cheng currently has a son and a daughter, with their son, Yuan Xiao, only having developed his sacred pattern after his 5th birthday last year. To develop the sacred pattern by age 5, Qiu Hong and Yuan Xiao's potential is certainly ahead of other children their age in Zia City, but in comparison to Zia Yuzong and Zia Yuning, it falls short. These two, after all, were born with their sacred patterns. So far in Great Zia, there hasn't been a third case. Of course, this excludes the two highnesses. Zia Yuyao and Zia Yusheng's talents are not widely known in Zia City, but Yuan Cheng, Qiu Peng, and Su Ning happen to be among the few who do know. Comparing their children to the two highnesses is out of the question. Even if they did, it wouldn't make sense to damage their own or their children's self-esteem. Why bother? Of course, these are side notes. The most important point in Su Ning's speech was the last sentence. As long as someone from Great Zia breaks through to the cold resistance level, their bloodline will automatically become manifest, and the sacred pattern will inevitably appear between their brows. Combining this with what Zia Chuan just said, the meaning becomes quite clear. Yuan Cheng's expression slightly lifted with surprise. So, anyone who's been in the camp for more than half a year, has cold resistance level cultivation, yet hasn't grown a sacred pattern, can basically be determined to be insiders sent by other camps. Chapter 1131, Chapter 388, 8 Towns Scouts and Spies, Zia Chuan's Bearing, Outer Realm News 3. Qiu Peng looked excited and said, "Exactly. This way, as long as time passes, any spies from the 6 towns who sneaked into the town possessing cold resistance level cultivation will reveal themselves. We just need to conduct regular screenings." Zia Chuan nodded with a smile, his eyes revealing a hint of coldness. During these 4 months, through various channels, 218 people with cold resistance level cultivation have joined Great Zia. These people are already under close watch, and once the 6-month mark is reached, we will immediately find out whether they are human or ghosts. However, this screening method is not foolproof. For instance, those with earth-digging realm cultivation cannot be detected. Of course, the 4 of them were aware of this point, but they tacitly did not mention it. The reason is simple. Cultivation implies authority. Given Great Zia's current strength, those with earth-digging realm cultivation are bound not to access many things. Even if the 8 towns indeed send spies with earth-digging realm cultivation into the city, they would not be able to achieve anything. Moreover, considering Great Zia's abundant resources, as long as these people are not foolish, they will inevitably switch allegiances over time, so there is no need for concern. If that's the case, Yang Ning and Li Hu are definitely not spies sent by Beishuo Town, so why exactly have they come? Qiu Peng brought the topic back. Earlier, he already stated that if Beishuo Town wanted to probe Great Zia's situation, they certainly wouldn't choose Hongmen as the entry point, much less send someone incognito. Thus, it's almost certain that Yang and Li were not specifically dispatched by Beishuo Town. The convoy from the Beishuo Chamber of Commerce arrived on August 27, 2 days earlier than the Jinshan Chamber of Commerce. Since their arrival in the city till now, the two have made no contact with people from the Beishuo Chamber of Commerce, making it unlikely that it was prearranged. Upon hearing Yuan Cheng's words, Zia Chuan became even more confused. Both of them are commanders from the Beishuo Town Defense Army and have no relation with the Beishuo Chamber of Commerce, yet they've suddenly come all this way, which is utterly perplexing. These idiots who have come privately, could they be? Suddenly, Qiu Peng thought of something. His expression turned peculiar, and after speaking he saw Zia Chuan looking at him, revealing a slight guess. Since we remember the events of 9 years ago, they probably remember them too. Over 9 years, Great Zia has grown from a small camp to its current scale at an astounding rate. Anyone knowing this would start speculating wildly. Perhaps those two, upon hearing news about Great Zia, decided to come personally to verify something. Case solved. Upon hearing Qiu Peng's words, Zia Chuan initially froze, then his expression quickly became equally peculiar, soon nodding and laughing. It really is this way. These two probably think our great Zia is similar to Daju Temple, a deceitful monster-supported camp. Once they verify it, they will immediately return to inform Yang Zhen and Yang Fa, then plot against us. Yuan Cheng also seemed to have figured it out and chimed in. Upon hearing this, Zia Chuan could basically ascertain. Qiu Peng's guess is likely correct. These two, relying on their decent backgrounds and more extensive knowledge, tend to act clever but stubbornly, as evidenced 9 years ago at Redwood Ridge. For instance, they once tricked Luo Ming into leading a group of people from surrounding camps as bait to lure the wood puppet monster. Later, after Zia Chuan unexpectedly killed the deceitful monster, they wanted to kill him and also said they wanted to take him back to Beishuo, among other things. Thinking these two came for this reason, Zia Chuan chuckled, shaking his head with a trace of helplessness. Minister, if it is indeed like this, all the better. Capture them first, then bring them back to Zia City for some good fun and torment. Yuan Cheng's words hadn't finished before Zia Chuan waved him off. No need for that, killing these two won't achieve anything. Since they want to verify whether we are the great Zia from 9 years ago, let them confirm it well. Just as a chance to scare Yang Zhen and Yang Fa through these two dimwits. Hearing Zia Chuan's words, not only Yuan Cheng, but also Qiu Peng and Su Ning showed a slight surprise, all turning their faces towards him with a look of confusion. Back then, Li Hu's kick almost killed Zia Chuan. As for Yang Ning, his later words about taking him to Beishuo concealed some well-known intentions. Seeing them again after 9 years, Zia Chuan's reaction was so calm, without even a hint of vengefulness, naturally puzzled the three of them. Don't look at me like that. Were these two stronger, they would be simple to kill, but just 21 and 14, such strength doesn't pique my interest at all. Our great Zia now focuses on the border across 8 towns. Trivial grievances aren't worth worrying about. Just as well, as the 6 town spies increase, many of great Zia's information cannot be hidden anymore. Exactly using these two as the mouthpiece to scare off the 6 towns' petty thieves, preventing any further attempts. Vision determines mindset, which appropriately reflects Zia Chuan's speech. 9 years ago, Great Zia had only 100 or 200 people, with Zia Chuan then possessing simply logging realm cultivation, together with his brother Zia Hong, worrying daily about how to eat one full meal, resist the cold, hunt cold beasts to obtain more beast meat for cultivation, and ensuring camp security. But now, with this round of bashing migration concluding, the total population will surge to over 2.5 million, integrating Bashing City and Jiuchu Camp, covering a territory of nearly 20,000 square kilometers. Just cold resistance level includes over 7,500 people, and Earth-digging realm has more than 200,000, owning 11 armies, 2 of which are elite Cloud Jiaolong Wu. Overall, it cannot be compared with the past. Chapter 1132, Chapter 388, The 8 Town Spies and Agents, Zia Chuan's Presence, Outer Realm News 4. Great Zia is not the Great Zia it was 9 years ago, and he is naturally no longer the Zia Chuan from 9 years ago. He is now the Great Zia Minister in charge of the 8 departments. In terms of power, he is second only to one, and above thousands. His every word and deed is enough to affect every person in Great Zia. Any of his orders can determine life or death. All of his decisions dictate the glory, disgrace, wealth, and fortunes of countless families. Saying he has immense power is not an exaggeration. In terms of strength, he is currently the undisputed 3rd person in all of Great Zia. Aside from his elder brother, Zia Hong, and his sister-in-law, Li Xuanling, he fears no one. Once he continues to break through to the Xianyang level, he will be equal with the lords of the other 8 towns. For a long time in the future, he may almost swagger across the southern slope of Mo Mountain. As for wealth, there's no need to speak further. In some respects, Zia Chuan considers himself to have more extreme views than his elder brother. From Zia Hong's many actions and words, it can be seen he still regards Great Zia as a homeland created collectively by everyone, where all products should be shared by all. Zia Chuan, however, differs. He still believes to this day that Great Zia is solely Zia Hong's private property. Without Zia Hong, Great Zia's rise would never have been possible. The advancement of power, strength, and wealth long ago elevated Zia Chuan's vision to a height rare among common people. His mindset has quietly changed. In fact, when he heard about Yang Ning and Li Hu from Luoyang last year, his heart remained mostly calm. Effortlessly killing 2 cold resistance level people from Beishuo town is certainly no burden to him. But if he can use these two cold resistance level individuals to handle other matters more vital to Great Zia, he would naturally opt for the latter. The current situation is just like that. With more and more spies infiltrating Great Zia's territory, it's only a matter of time before information is exposed. For example, a straightforward matter of reckoning the years. Anyone with a bit of intelligence listening to the name, the 8th year of Zia, and tracing it back to verify will soon discover discrepancies. Since exposure is inevitable, it might be better to use the mouths of these two and first intimidate Beishuo Town. In the entire Mo 8 towns, especially the three families in the north, the thing they're most eager to know is Great Zia's overall strength, especially the quantity at the Xianyang level. They previously could confirm only my elder brother, but now with the bashing migration starting, they will surely believe that Xiang Fuhai has recovered. This way, Great Zia can be assured for a long time. My sister-in-law will soon break through, and once I and Yuan Dao also break through, the situation on the southern slope of Mo Mountain will essentially be clear. After pondering for a moment, Zia Chuan's eyes flickered with ambition. Then he turned to Qiu Peng and Yuan Cheng and said, "Get Lin Kai and have him cooperate together. First, let Yang Ning and Li Hu reconfirm that Great Zia is still the Great Zia it was 9 years ago, then expose their false identities, follow Hongmen City's rules to expel them, and let them return to Beishuo to deliver the message." Originally, Lin Kai served in Huayuan, and after Hongmen was established and the city built, he was promoted here as the defender. Qiu Peng and Yuan Cheng had already understood Zia Chuan's plan, and their faces were full of admiration. Hearing his orders, they immediately nodded. Additionally, keep a close watch on this Han Peng. According to Han Peng's talent is quite average. He only broke through to cold resistance level in his 40s and doesn't have battle body talent. He reached peak of cold resistance level at 72, with basic strength always being at 8 zong. However, 5 years ago, his strength suddenly began to increase. Since then, it has grown by an additional zong every year. Given Jinyang Village's impoverished conditions, he absolutely can't afford Dan medicine to enhance strength at peak of cold resistance level. Moreover, he is also keen on inquiring about the news across various towns. At the end of last year, when the 7 towns supported Jiangxia, he went there too, and even spent money to buy information from cold resistance level individuals in other towns, which Han Feng accidentally stumbled upon. This person definitely has issues. Try finding an opportunity to engage with him. We might actually uncover some news about outer realm forces. At your command. Upon hearing this, Qiu Peng and Yuan Cheng immediately responded with cupped hands, knowing that this matter was more important than that of Yang Ning and Li Hu, so their expressions became much more solemn. All right then, Su Ning, come with me to meet Xiang Fuhai. It's about time to migrate those 90,000 people from Bashing too. After indicating to Qiu Peng and Yuan Cheng, Zia Chuan called Su Ning and walked straight towards the main hall. Xiang Fuhai and Xiang Tianyang's conversation was almost finished, so it was time for him to make an appearance. Qiu Peng and Yuan Cheng also left to call Lin Kai and meet with Yang Ning and Li Hu. Like other setups within Great Zia territory, the tallest building in Hongmen City is naturally the Ministry Building in the center representing Great Zia's reign. But unlike other setups, aside from the Ministry Building, there is also a massive, 5-story wooden building on the southern side of Hongmen City that matches the height of the Ministry Building. Even though its height is the same as the Ministry Building, the length of a single wall of this wooden building reaches an astonishing 100 meters, making its scale at least 10 times that of the Ministry Building. According to the Great Zia's ritual codes, this wooden building actually counts as exceeding the limits. However, since Zia Hong himself planned and constructed this wooden building, the notion of exceeding limits naturally doesn't hold. At this moment, Han Peng and all cold resistance level individuals from the Yin Valley caravan stood in front of this wooden building. Treasure Tower. Everyone looked up at the 3 large characters on the wooden building's top banner, their expressions filled with excitement and their eyes full of longing. This is the infamous Great Zia Wanbao building that is being talked about extensively among the 8 towns. Rumor has it that inside, there's everything from Dan medicine and weapons for cultivation at the Xianyang level, to auxiliary Dan medicine for children as young as 6 years old practicing cultivation. Great Zia's independently created various new products, and everything in between.